guys, it's Mike. I'm producer director here in Toronto, and I run this Startoon thing. And tonight we are talking with the founders of the Toronto Animation Arts Festival International, Toronto's local animation festival, about how they even did this in the first place and what it's all about. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
I'm Mike Weiss. I'm an animation director, a stop motion teacher, and a co-founder in TAAFI, mostly in programming.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Barnabas Warnoff. I teach at Seneca and Sheridan. I animated studios like 9 Story, and I did a lot of programming and made things like the market and the art book for TAAFI.
Thanks, Barn!
Hey, kids!
I can't follow that up.
You can.
All right.
Just be yourself, man.
I'm Rich Duhaney. I'm an animation director, sometimes producer at Smiley Guy Studios, where we did Furry Force and Curse of Clara. Currently, Corner Gas animated series. I'm not on that one. And recently finished a feature film, Todd and the Book of Pure Evil.
Woo!
Yeah. And I am a co-founder and currently marketing director of TAAFI.
And this piece of cardboard over here?
That's Ben McAvoy. He's a dirtbag and forgot that we were having a thing tonight. He does a lot of sponsorship. So if you're a studio out there, you talk to that cardboard box and he'll get you set up.
Image, not at scale. So you guys all met at Sheridan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even this guy over here.
Sheridan.
Yeah, so you were all students at Sheridan. You graduated what year?
Well, we graduated in 2002, so it was the
2002.
3 years leading up to that.
Okay.
4 years for Mr. Smarty Pants over here.
Yeah, I joined halfway through that year.
He had a bucket hat on in B102, and he looked like
Yeah.
a bad dude because he had dreadlocks. They're like this
Yeah.
long.
Little Kangol?
Yeah. Mike and I were in the same pod that
Yeah,
first year. Yeah. Everyone else had already picked their places, but I came back because I started in '97, and then second year was really hard, and failed that year. I was part of the last culling, I'll call it, and that was actually when we were still splicing film, and they hadn't transitioned over to computers
Digital?
yet. Digital.
Yeah.
And you still had to sign in for the limited hours for the camera room, because there was no swipe cards. So a lot of fights and just a nasty kind of environment at that time. You know, you have to finish. Can I just ramble?
Yeah.
You have to finish your project, which was hard enough. And then you have to finish it in time to line up at 2 a.m. to get your spot to get into the camera room, which opens at 9, so you can sign your name on the list to be able to shoot your film, all in time, like be able to develop it and splice it and then submit it. So there was one moment where the technician just had enough.
Was that John Groot before he died?
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Yeah,
John
awesome guy. He just had enough of this fighting, and he started to yell at us all collectively, and everyone put their heads down. But I had my head up, and he just locked eyes with me, and it was just venting all this.
You got the full Groot?
Yeah. But that's the kind of thing that happened before they transitioned to digital, which happened the year I was away. So they got in the computers, everything was set up, but they had no technician to show anybody how to use them.
Yeah, they knew it. They plugged him in and were like,
Yeah.
they backed away.
Yeah. So that's when, actually my brother-in-law was there at that time, Nick Booz, who was a great TAAFI contributor.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him teaching people to use the computers and stuff. It was people who knew the programs could teach the other students in that transitionary year. Then I came back in 2000, and I joined this year. And,
This esteemed cohort.
Yeah. It was a great year.
Steamy.
And everything was digital at the time. I had swipe cards. It was super sweet. Could stay there all night. The lab room stunk, but you could work in peace and much more peaceful.
So where would you identify, I mean, you guys as a group, years and years and years later, set out to start this festival. Coming out of school, I mean, most people go out and they come out, they get jobs, there's a bit of a traditional path coming out of school. Was there anything in there at the beginning? Were there early signs that you guys wanted to do something different? And as a group, were you bonded that way, right from the beginning? What are the building blocks of this?
I think there was definitely a period in between where we kind of all, went out into the industry, but the industry is only so big. So you always bump into each other and all that kind of thing. But
But also the industry wasn't that hot at the time.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of jobs, so we kind of graduated and we're like, well, now what?
Yeah, you kind of have to make your own way through.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah, there was a dip around then.
I still vividly remember teachers right before we were gonna graduate just saying, "Oh yeah, there's no jobs out there, you know," and we were all just sitting there with our arms crossed,
Yeah.
and just oh.
Yeah, I think that's when I was working for the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I finished my film. I came back and worked with a fellow classmate, Pat Lake, who had kept his apartment. He lives in Syracuse in the States, but he kept his apartment so he could finish his film. So I think for a lot of us, it was like, this is our last chance to make a film, finish it.
And then he finished it at my parents' house.
Yes. Yeah.
Came back for like 3 months.
Was that the one with the cat and the conveyor belts?
No, it was a bear.
Bear, yeah.
Oh, bear.
That was
That's
it,
yeah.
Gone fishing, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Classic Pat Lake style.
Oh,
while
great.
we were there, we're working on the old mezzanine that used to run through the center of the department. And Nelvana guy came in the middle of summer because he was looking for a teaching job because Nelvana had just let go a ton of people.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, there's a ton of us let go. I didn't keep up with technology, so, you know, poor me, but I'm looking for teaching now. And that was our introduction.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't quite headed out to try and find jobs. We're like, oh,
And that Nelvana guy was Tony Tarantini.
How you doing?
yeah.
So we all graduated, nobody had jobs, and then eventually we circled the wagons and started TAAFI.
You're just trying to end this thing.
Fast forward.
I take it all back. Okay.
So I tricked a lot of people to start a studio so we could show our films.
Okay,
to
so
people who
I
cared.
happen to know, yes, that there was a little route that you took. You decided you were going to be all entrepreneurial and a bit shady. And you took off for Peterborough, and you dragged him along with you. And who else?
Pat Lake and Heather Clark and
Steve?
No, that was part 2. I think I had only a few ones for the
Yeah.
first one. I think it was just those guys.
Hee
maybe-
Jung.
Oh yeah, Hee Jung Yun, who's married to Bill Tedford. They have beautiful triplets.
Did Nathan come up?
Yeah, he
Terry?
came for the first
Yeah.
one. Yeah, he had a broken leg. So then we animated.
How many broken limbs were there that year? How many broken bones?
Nathan just broke it. That was it. Everybody else was fine.
Rotated collarbone.
Different time.
No breakage.
Sorry.
So
okay.
yeah, spent 1 month making a pilot TV show that had an animated opening sequence, a middle part, and an end part, and then it had live action skit parts.
Okay.
And that was like Steve Wolford and me and my brother and Nathan and. it
So
was
you were
just
doing sketch comedy,
sketch comedy.
and you pulled a bunch of guys together to build some framing sequences so
Yeah.
you could have a pilot show.
Yeah.
And you just got basically dragged everybody up to Peterborough, and you lived at your mom's house.
Yeah, our
And
parents'
everybody
house.
lived there together.
Yeah.
Ranch, yeah.
We set up like a studio in an old barn. I had like swallows flying in and out, and did some character designs and animated it up. So it was a random thing,
Okay.
and then we used
It
that
was a nice transition after school because you don't want to end that that
camaraderie.
party.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we went up
In
there.
classical animation, so it was before
Continued that.
Flash animation, right at the cusp. It was when Flash was starting. So it was like, you're all classical animators. Good luck, stupid. So we're like, we all still wanted to draw. So at that point, we're like, let's animate our own show classically, because that makes sense. So we did.
what software did you use?
We're using
So, something?
Flipbook.
Yeah.
Digicel Flipbook.
Uh-huh.
We got free copies from Kent Braun, and then we got free subs. Everybody got 1 free sub a week, and Mr. Sub from Peterborough. And so we made a show for a month there, and then pitched it, and then basically got picked up. But that's like a whole another story. The story there is we put on an animation festival, and that was our first kind of festival. We rented out Showplace, which is the big place, and then we brought in all kinds of people. I think like Catherine Durst and other people, like people.
So
who are
you did like
interested
a
in animation.
one-off, like a one-night screening, or
One
was
night screening at the theater in town, and then we
of,
showed
of your super popular show.
Yeah, but plus all these cartoons, because like that was only like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or something,
Right.
22 minutes. So then we put all our films in front of it, and then we had Kai Pindle come up and show some Kai Pindle cartoons. Old lady.
And what was this festival called
It's called the Super Popular Animation Festival.
in Peterborough?
Yep.
Was there more than one edition of this festival?
No.
No. Okay. Just checking.
Well, actually there was. We went to Syracuse, New York, and we put
Oh,
on
yeah.
the second version of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was a traveling.
Pat set that
Ottawa
up.
started out as a traveling festival as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This we camped
That was a good
on
road trip.
we illegally camped on the shores of Lake Ontario, and then shit in his own pants.
Last name. Who did? You don't have to put that.
He was trying to lean against a tree and he pulled down his pants.
He doesn't want to be brought in.
And then he pooped into his own pants. So then he had to go swimming in the water to wash it out of his pants. He's not much of a farm boy, that one. That was on the way back.
Okay.
Oh, good show.
Port Ontario, which is in an American town.
Yep.
Excellent. So that was the
What was
first.
the connection to Syracuse?
Oh, we
Why
had the
Syracuse?
second super popular animation art and rock show.
That's where one of the team members, Pat, lived.
Okay.
So he set that up at the local theater there. He said, we should show the festival here. So we went down. Syracuse is a university town, so
Mhm.
frat houses, like classic party frat houses around, and showed it there. I can't remember what the attendance was like.
It was brisk.
Yeah.
We also went to, I think when we did the main show, we went to Michigan and went to their university and did an art show and a screening there too. So we failed at breaking into the American audience.
Mhm.
Because this was before YouTube and everything too.
Right.
I think we're off track though. So
And were you part of this at this point?
No, as I say before, I had a film involved in it, but I
Right.
didn't actually do any traveling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So plausible deniability. You weren't. Yeah.
Let's leave
Your
it
name's
at that.
not
yeah.
on any list.
Yeah. I did
Okay.
not poop in any pants.
So there was something from day one that was.
I think Mike got a real job. I think that was the thing.
Yeah.
Because he was just doing his thing. So we're like, okay, we'll trick him into doing something later.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was terrified coming out of school. The industry day was kind of a disaster, so I left early, and I was just like, I don't want to get started in this. So it was like perfect that this came up, that I could escape in this like I'm doing some animation, but I don't have to worry about a job for a little while.
It's founded in cowardice.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, with fear, for sure. And why don't I go and have fun, and I can avoid this reality for a little bit. Yeah.
I remember our industry day, there was 2 companies that
Yeah.
showed interest in anybody,
Yeah.
and one of them came a week early and hired like a gigantic clump of people. And I remember making an appointment to see them and not realizing I had to go into Toronto to do it. For some reason, I was in Oakville frame of mind,
Mhm.
so I went to the school and I was like, where are they holding the auditions? And they were like, yeah, it's in Toronto. And so I was just like, I forget it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everyone got hired except for me, and I thought, oh my God. So
Yeah.
I spent the entire summer biting my nails,
Yeah.
living in Toronto. And I still remember, I joined a band, and I still remember at a guy I was in the band with, we were going to go to Starbucks to go to the hiring fair. And that day I got a call from that production company, and they were like, yeah, we were looking at the yearbook, and we're looking for a couple more people. And I was like, oh my God. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah, it was a lifesaver. But that's where I was when these guys were doing the...
The skate.
You were out with your friends.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. So okay, so that went away. That was a youthful attempt. You guys moved into jobs after that. Is that kind of how this would just continue from there?
Mike and I actually ended up at the same shop
Okay.
called Henry's World, which was temporarily set up to do the second season of a stop motion show called Henry's World. First season having been done by Cup of Coffee.
Mhm.
And I got a job as production designer there, which was this lofty title that they needed a production designer. I was just out of school, so I didn't really meet the production. I didn't even know, like, what are the responsibilities? I basically designed. And then it was a small, tightly run shop, and they wanted to keep it really tidy, size-wise and pace-wise, because they wanted to save money from the previous season.
Mm-hmm.
So we largely used the old sets. They got shipped over from Cup of Coffee. We had a really tight, talented team, and we were really fluid. So I would do some design and then move over to the shop to do some prop building, and then whatever had to be done, just kind of like circled the wagons and did it. But yeah, Mike and I were eventually working together at that shop, which closed when they finished the first season. Right?
It was amazing. It was such a good first or second production to work on because we were all so new and green. I think a lot of people have this experience where, they hire fresh-faced people because they have the passion to do it. And we were all kind of learning all of our positions. I had never stop motion animated before, but I just loved it so much, and it was the same with everybody. Everyone was kind of like, yeah, I'll try this.
Yeah.
And then it had the feeling of like those Wright brothers playing videos where you're just like, oh, is this gonna like keep going, or is it gonna just crash into the hills? But it went really well. Like
Yeah.
it was. I think it's the only production I've ever worked on that it ended production early.
Really?
Like the schedule actually finished early.
They
was
hired all the right
incredible.
people. It was amazing. And we, to this day, I've never worked on a production where I've continued like beyond just a work relationship with more people than on that production.
Yeah.
Still keeping in touch and hanging out.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben? Sorry.
When Ben graduated, he was more into student government.
Oh yeah.
So,
I want to hear about that.
So he was actually the head of student council, and it was funny because Ben was in school and like he was like on the other side of the tracks than I would say all of us. He was like more of like follow the rules and I want to be on student government and stop.
He's a narc.
Stop smashing and throwing all those donuts and stuff. So he would be kind of like poo-pooing some of our naughtiness sometimes. So it's funny because we got along, but we weren't really close in school.
You're this close to saying we didn't like him.
No,
You're
I'd
an
say
inch
like
from it. It's
I
on the
like
tip of
because
your tongue.
he burned me a Gorillaz album when their first album came out, and he gave that to me, and I had that for years, and I liked him because of that.
Okay. So Jamie Hewlett saved your relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have much of a relationship with Ben in school. He was not often. I mean, I don't remember him being in the studio that much.
I never met him. I remember his film. I was very impressed with his film.
You're very impressed?
Yeah.
It was Photoshop.
Well, it was a unique concept. I was like, oh, who's this
It was
person who did
the
this?
monk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the 7 stages of trying to get into or achieve nirvana or whatever, but it was like symbolically just this monk trying to get through a doorway. But it was the way it was shot, the way it was designed and everything. It was really unique.
So he had some chops in there.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
definitely.
He wasn't just a pretty face.
It wasn't unfinished. It was unfinished quite a lot, though. It was more of a storyboard.
Yeah.
But through his involvement with Student Union, I always had this impression that he would be a really good producer and that he was going to be the producer amongst us. If anyone was going to come out and have a career in animation as a producer, it was going to be Ben.
He's a good talker.
Yeah, it's really a shame he couldn't be here tonight. It's really a shame.
It's interesting
he
because
couldn't be here tonight.
I think there's more talking on all of our sides because of that.
Perhaps we're getting more out of you, let's say.
He's really just in the other room. This is his whole master plan.
Sharpening his bayonet.
Right.
Yeah.
He's going to spring in some kind of an entrance, whipping off his jacket, putting it over his shoulder. Because you're an interesting collection of human beings. Because when I first met you and Ben, you wasn't till later.
Yeah.
I didn't meet you till actually quite a bit later on.
Yeah. Probably not until around TAAFI time.
Yeah, like actually at
Or
the festival, I think. or
Maybe
something.
even Naked Frames. Were you
No,
there?
no, not for that. No.
Okay.
But so it was at Ottawa, and you guys were there, and it was almost surreptitious, even though you were very obvious about it, because it was something. There was always some notion of like, you guys are trying to start a festival, and you're here at this festival, and you're defining yourselves as not being like Ottawa.
So it was you met us when we already had the idea to start a festival
Yes.
at Ottawa.
You were wearing a very bright blue shirt with a black vest, and I believe a matching tie.
Wow. Sparkle in the eye.
Yeah, boom.
And you
Left a
gave a
real impression.
tremendous shoulder rub. And I really didn't know if you were hitting on me or not. I'm still not sure.
Yeah, neither am I.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. But you're 4 diverse guys working in the industry. Were you seeing much of each other throughout that time? Like at what point what brings you to a place where you stand and say, hey, we should start a festival? Where does the hubris come from?
I think there's a series of events that brought this into be. I think like years before we wanted to start the festival, on my side of it, I remember hanging out at the Ottawa Festival, and Chuck Amage, back in his drinking days, was like, oh, we should have this in Toronto. Like, this would be so great because all the stuff is there. And then that stuck in my head, and that was, I think, in my mind, one of the reasons that we started it is because this guy that I hugely respect, just because he's, a beast, he can draw like a machine, was like, we should have this in Toronto. I was like, I'll do that for you, Chuck. So that's part of it. And another thing was like, just because I was always a big fan of Ottawa, always. And I think like me and Mike and Rich and Nathan and everybody would go to the Ottawa Festival and we'd stay at like my brother's place or just crash at like the hotels or whatever. And we loved that festival kind of feel, especially when we were students. I think we really felt like that was our place to be. And then also like it started changing a little bit maybe and not getting as, I don't know, something was weird about it. And then I think in our mind was like, let's bring that magic back to Toronto and introduce it to this whole other clique of students that's maybe not going to the festival anymore and could rejuvenate with them.
Yeah, and also just the industry in Toronto is huge. Like it just seemed weird that there's no like big, even like event for animation. There was like nothing in Toronto.
Yeah.
So
Because I mean, we've got like TIFF, which is this huge film festival.
yeah,
And I mean, and a few phenomenal animated films come and premiere through here as well. I think I saw The Illusionist at TIFF a number of years ago. But still, the step from like, hey, this would be a good idea, because you hear Chuck talk about it, to sitting down. First of all, like the fact that you end up sitting down with the right people to be able to follow through on this, that you actually, I mean, was it always this group before? Were there other people involved? Were there like, how does this go from being, sure, Chuck, I'll do that for you?
Well, that was like a couple years before, and then I think the impetus of it was like me and Ben were at Ottawa, sent on Seneca's dime one year, and so we were, sleeping through talks and screenings or whatever, and then we went out to a bar and had some drinks with Mark Jones, and we're like, there's kind of nothing I want to see right here, right now. This is all cool, but like we could have the same thing, and then we have a world-class screening facility like TIFF. What if we did some of this kind of stuff, not like ape what Ottawa is doing, but just do like our own thing and celebrate some cool stuff we're doing in Toronto, and then bring in some internationals to share what's going on too. And so I think from there, because when we were flying home on the plane, we talked about it and we were throwing around names, and Mark Jones was like, I'm not part of this. And then later he came onto the board, kind of came back and was like, I'll help you start that. But we were flying back and I was like, Ben, are you serious about starting this? And he's like, let me ask my wife. And I was like, let me ask mine. So that was part of it, is we asked our wives and they're both like, yeah, that's a great idea, you should start that. And so then through that, then we didn't really know what we're doing, and then we kind of started talking to different friends and saying like, Rich, is this a good idea? Mike, is this a good idea? Mark Jones came in, and Joanne Purcell, and that was like our core, I think, that started things going, because then we started having some meetings, ad hoc kind of board meetings, and seeing what it should be, and we still don't really know what the festival is. But I think it's just basically, we have an idea, let's throw people at it and fill it out a little bit.
Yeah, Barn had mentioned this conversation Ben and he had. And to me, I was kind of I'd hit my stride at Smiley Guy, where I felt like very comfortable, to the point of like, it's not particularly challenging right now. And then when Barn mentioned this idea, it planted a seed. My wife is involved in events. She's always got things going on after hours. I didn't really have an after work kind of thing. And then I went with Barn to Naked Frames, Mike's local festival, just to be like, yeah, this is like an exciting prospect to start this thing. Let's go to this to Naked Frames, watch some films, and then I got really excited about the possibility and said, I want to be involved in it. So let's do it.
Yeah, I think maybe that was the impetus, is like going to Naked Frames too. We had this idea, and then that kind of set it off.
So what is Naked Frames?
Well, Naked Frames was something that I started with three of my friends. And just to go way back, even when I started working, I started kind of, like every year I would go to Ottawa, and I love their screenings, I love going there. It was like the yearly event I'd look forward to.
Yeah.
So working in stop motion, I started to kind of look at the materials that were needed, and I was just like, I should try this, on my own. So I started making a few films, and then I eventually got, it screened in Ottawa, and I thought, this is like, that was my dream at the
Official
time.
competition?
No, come on.
I'm just asking.
It's a Canadian film. But anyway. But yeah, so that was just some like an experience that I was just so jazzed by. And then some friends of mine, they're musicians, and they're actually in a band now called Cybertronic Spree, which is the Transformers-based band.
I know them very well.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
I've seen them a couple times now.
Oh, great. Well, if you want to get an interview out of them,
Yeah, that might not be a bad idea.
But yeah, so we got together because they were looking to hold. They were in another band at the time, and they were looking to hold a record release party. And they wanted to accompany it with some films, and they were like, "Oh, you're finishing a film. Why don't you show it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, so we kind of teamed up, and at the Review Cinema in Roncesvalles, we had a screening. It was like a kind of a one-night thing, and it had animated films, live rock performances and stuff, and it was great. It was super fun. So then we got together and we started pitching ideas for doing it as a regular event, and it became a thing where it was a music video and animation night. So you'd have live musical performances, animation, and we had an animated host. His name was Face, and it was just like a grid of newsprint with Conte with different facial features on it. We just swap it off and take pictures and animate this giant face. And we kind of wrote these little interstitials in between bands, in between shows, just to keep it going throughout the night. But it was really fun. Like, we had a super fun time doing it. And we hand curated everything. So if it was literally as much as you would just scour the internet for fun stuff. And if something jumped out at you, you'd just make a mental note and you'd be like, yeah, let's approach these people.
Yeah.
And we talked with tons and tons of people from around the world. And so many of them were just so like thrilled to just say, yeah, here's the file, show it.
Awesome.
They didn't want anything from it. And we started, it was really grassroots in that we started even making little certificates, like kind of handmade certificates with face on it, saying like your film was shown at this, and we'd mail it out to them. It was done purely out of the enthusiasm for, you know, the event itself, animation, that kind of thing.
There's a festival in like the Pacific Northwest
Yeah.
that is like that, where it's like, it doesn't matter when your film was made, if they haven't screened it before and they like it, they just want to show it. I've never been, but I've shared it on Canadian Animation Resources a few times because it just seems so like, we just really want to have a bunch of cartoons we can show, and I think it's more like a sci-fi festival, and they do animation, something like that. I can't remember what it's called.
I think it's evolved a little bit since its
inception. Yeah, but when it started,
yeah.
it was very much just sort of like, yeah, what's cool, and let's show it, and it'll cost you $3 to get in, and we'll have, and it's, that always appealed to me. As something that just like, because these festivals have so many rules.
Yeah.
And that's great because you need them, because these festivals also are about getting the right kind of recognition for your film. So it can, I mean, there's a reason for those things.
For
But
sure.
at the same time, it's nice to have that other option.
Well, that's the thing too, is because filmmakers, like, that's a serious deal. Like, when you dedicate, you know, your time to making a short film, you want to get official recognition. So it's like, we weren't there for that part. We were there more for the fun part. But it's like, I understand, you know, that whole thing about sending your film in the official channels and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're all joking about it, but we'd all love to have a film in the official competition at all.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my students has one of their films playing at Shorts That Are Not Pants tonight that I'm missing because I'm here.
Oh,
Dedication.
That's very sweet of you.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice that you could make the time in your busy schedule to remember to show up.
It'd be nice, hey, pizza box?
Okay, so you were kind of doing some of this.
Yeah, and it was like, it was all like one night events. So it was like we would
How often?
We tried for seasonally, so almost like 4 times a year, but it was so demanding because when you hand curate something, you know, you have to dedicate a lot of your time to it. And it's also, you kind of go through a pool of people who are willing to perform at a theater for this amount of money.
Right.
And we were paying it out of our pockets.
Yeah.
So we would take the revenue from the previous show, and whatever we couldn't cover, we'd just pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a sustainable model for sure. But we were just so passionate about it.
You were young.
And then, yeah, exactly. Well, we were getting a little
youngish.
end of 20s
Younger
there.
than you are now.
Yeah. But one of the shows, Barney and Rich came out, and I think we just kind of briefly talked about like, hey, this is, you know, fun. We should do something like this.
So
Like
Mike
a big,
Geiger's
weird
Cuddle
professional
Sticks
scale.
there.
Yeah, Cuddle Sticks. Yeah.
And the Titmouse film, the
Oh yeah, the owl.
the owl one.
Yeah, or it's not an owl. It's shoot. It was just so many animation pieces that, you know, you just see and you were like, more people have to see this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point, though, this becomes something serious. I mean, I still, because there's something in all this where, like, most people would be like, yeah, we can't do that. Honestly, that's where most people. This is a good idea. It'd be cool. Wouldn't it be great if we did this? Meh. And then it doesn't happen. And whether it's because it's someone with that kind of self-defeating, we don't do that, or just because you're all busy and you do other stuff.
Yeah. I talk myself out of things all the time. So if it was just me, it wouldn't have happened. If it was just me alone, I mean, people talk, when they're in school, they talk, we got to start a studio. And not many people do it. But Barn did it, you know, with zero funding. And I witnessed Barney do.
Did he really, though?
Well,
did he really? Would you call
I got government funding.
I think it's okay. Well, I guess if you got government funding, it's
You got
special.
free subs.
Because I think I keep hearing this referred to as a studio, and
Yeah.
I think it sounds more like a scam.
It's
Well,
more of a cult.
There was a product that came out of it. And,
Whatever the means.
And there was an effort, you know, and it was real, and everybody was really excited about it. So, and then of course Ben was this guy that I thought of as a producer. He'd been in India, right?
Yeah.
He went to
I was in
India,
India.
doing things there, and I'm like, wow, this guy's traveling. So when Barney and Ben decided to team up, I'm like, okay, I can get with that, and I know it won't be like all dependent on my efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then when I saw Naked Frames, the programming got me excited, and I'm like, yes, if we can, put something together.
Yeah,
Then
like Mike was that puzzle piece that fit nicely, and then when Mark Jones was like, "I'll help you," then it was like, okay, now we have like a father figure that can like help us with whatever businessy stuff.
Well,
that we have to
logistics
do.
and everything with Mark is fantastic.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
I have a lot of respect
brought
for that guy.
other sides of the technical stuff and like thinking realistic and whatnot as well. So, and when everybody was this was our board for TAAFI, then we were a bunch of doers that were like ready to do this thing, and there was nothing really holding us back at that point. So we just, because we're a bunch of doers, we just did it and we put it on.
with mixed amounts of confidence. So we went to, like, we didn't know how this was going to come together. We brought in another partner, Moorehead and Associates.
Mm-hmm.
They took on, they were there as volunteers essentially. They were invested before this thing ever proved any potential for success. They were there.
What was your connection to them?
So one of the people I worked with at Henry's World with Mike was Ted Healy. He's like an amazing prop guy, designer, writer.
Hilarious guy.
Yeah, very funny guy. His wife was Alexandra Moorehead. So we had a personal relationship with her, and she helped build up Word on the Street to what it is today. So she started her own outfit as Moorehead and Associates, and we had preliminary discussions with Alex, and she gave us confidence that she could help us pull in the elements we didn't know about the logistics of a festival.
And it's not because she would also have because of her relationship with Ted at the time, she would understand you guys as people more than maybe somebody else in publicity might, and would understand the culture of animation better than someone else in publicity might.
Yeah,
that's a good pairing.
Yeah, well, she at least respected it.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So what year was the first one?
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Is that when did we get together? It was like a year previous.
Yeah.
Like 2011?
2011, the first thing we did was that big Christmas party. Was it a Christmas party or the Vogue Supper Club?
Yeah.
It was in November.
It was just a party?
It's just like a launch for TAAFI.
So there was this sense of, from afar, I mean, I was doing Animation Resources in Ottawa. The festival was always there. I was starting to come down to Toronto on a fairly regular basis because I was kind of warming up to the idea of coming here. I met Alexis in Ottawa probably the same time I met you guys. Mm-hmm. And then she was running these events. She did a big party at that church across town.
Berkeley.
Yeah. Were you guys involved in that at all?
No. I didn't even go to it.
Aww.
I was sleeping.
It was a good party.
I remember one of her parties I went to, and it was so full that we just went across the street to the Gabbies or something like that because it was impossible to get in.
So there was
Because
clearly a need.
There was this huge demand.
Yeah, people wanted somewhere to go to come together and hang out here in Toronto. So clearly there was something afoot. And then you guys started doing them. Like I think she kind of handed off.
She
to a
did.
certain
She
degree.
gave us like our mailing list or something.
I don't think we got that.
No,
Victor.
maybe she never did.
Alexis Victor.
Yeah, that's
Victor.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. She gave us something, but it was more of an energy orb
Yeah.
to continue.
Yeah.
The one that Donald Trump was
But
holding
she,
on to.
I mean, it was called the industry party, and we definitely, you know,
Yeah.
ours was called industry,
Industry.
party
Yeah.
because of Alexis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where I also met Josh Brown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all good things come out of it.
When we did
Blue
our-
Ant.
When we did that first party, we weren't sure what to expect, and we kind of went overboard. Like we had door prizes and like we had an arcade unit and stuff, and that was a 2-floor.
Yeah, I
place,
remember that one.
And it was so packed. I remember sitting on the backs of chairs while people were like at my feet because I was like,
Yeah, it was shoulder to
mental.
shoulder. You couldn't
Yeah.
get through the place.
it was unbelievable. And that was the only complaint I heard from people. They were like,
And we had that
Fire
DJ
hazard.
dude.
yeah, oh yeah, that's right.
And he was like, he was inappropriate.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
geez.
really?
Well, that's not all nice.
Yeah.
The thought was, you know,
Uh-huh. There was,
it was a generous.
and then Clive Smith talked as
Yeah,
well.
Clive was
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay. Because that would have been so. Yeah, so it coincides. I was.
We
What?
definitely overdid it. We were just kind of like, let's just throw everything we can get our hands on at this point.
But it worked.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
worked, and it had to be an affirmation for you guys that there was something here that people wanted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It
and
was
that
a
was
huge eye opener.
Yeah, because if nobody would have came, then we would have been like, fine, let's just go back to thing. But no, we had to build it. We had to build it for Pam Rose.
So what's next? How did that? So from there, so you throw this party, you make some money off of it, or it pay for itself?
Like maybe a couple hundred or something.
Yeah, because at that point we had spent all of our time kind of. It was a bit of a struggle building what we thought we were going to be doing. So that was kind of like, like leading towards a festival. That was like kind of like a first step.
Yeah.
To kind of test the waters, see if we should keep going, keep ourselves motivated. And it was like after that, that was a huge, snowball to get us to like tighten up.
Yeah, because I
and
think
get
we
it.
booked TIFF at that
that
time,
point?
so we could
Wow.
say that we were doing the fest.
Ah, yeah.
I think that was our springboard to that before they viciously bumped us
Yeah.
again and again.
That's
Because they're
right.
heartless monsters.
Yeah, because it was funny because we were putting it all together. We were kind of like, we're gonna find the best place we can. So we're like, let's go to
Yeah.
TIFF because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
brand new too, and
Yeah.
we were just like,
But that's where you start. You should
Yeah.
do that.
yeah, oh,
You
for
start
sure.
here,
I think
so that you can finally find your place.
Yeah, exactly. And you
back
kind of
back in Roncy.
yeah, exactly. But you do get the confidence to kind of be like, well, let's use this more venue that's more appropriate. We'll have more control over it,
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Whereas when we had TIFF, we were basically handcuffed to whatever they wanted us to do, and that means
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was a dirty place.
yeah.
Dirty things.
It was a wonderful experience as someone who was there to take part in view.
It was.
It
Yeah.
would be in attendance.
It was
at the
glossy. We tried to make it as glossy and as
That's-
professional as
So
possible.
I will say, from the outside, you came out strong with like some really clear branding. You looked like you knew what you were doing from a distance.
Remember Iris?
The
Iris.
first poster looked great.
Yeah.
We
It
spent a lot
very-
of like the logo, everything. We would spend entire meetings just like. I mean,
Well,
I'm
y-
such a grassroots dope. Like that kind of stuff didn't mean anything to me, but it was like it was so
Yeah.
important to.
yeah, and
see it
figuring
all
out what our
come together.
name was as well. So
How did you land on that?
Because we didn't want to be just a film festival. So we had TAAFI, and I think that website was taking. And so we were like, well, what is it about? And then we decided on that we are the art of animation.
So, but you would
So
have
we
been
could-
just
so we
TAAF
could-
first.
What's that?
You would have started with just TAAF, Toronto Animation Festival.
Mm-hmm.
So international because TAAFI sounded better.
And if
Is
there
that
was
basically how that works.
Yeah, I think Ben, Cardboard Box Man, then came across that acronym, and he's like, yeah, let's throw that I at the end, and then it'll be...
And then if there was like another TAAFI, we'd be like TAAFI. Like we'd probably just put as many A's as it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
So
we
it
go.
allowed you to broaden your mandate because of the domain name was already taken.
That definitely factors into these kind of things, but I
Yeah.
don't want to.
Yeah.
I think
Since then, they tried to sell that back to us, and we were like, no.
TAAFI was always fun. With adding the I just made it even a fun word,
Yeah.
which translated into a fun logo, which gave off the message that this is going to be a fun festival.
Yeah.
We're
It's
like
about-
promoting a lifestyle.
Celebration of
More than
animation. It's not It's not dark, or it's.
No,
it's
I
like
did. I did
that
feel like
thing.
you guys were coming at it, and I don't know how much of a clear vision you may or may not have had at that point. But what was coming to the people on the outside was that this is a festival more about cartoons than about. I mean, again, I don't want to be. It's hard to frame this without talking about Ottawa.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you guys are a reaction to Ottawa, but you're carving out a distinct identity that is not what they do. And Ottawa does what they do really well, so it's great that you're not. But the complaint has often been, or criticism, whatever you want to call it, that Ottawa doesn't really serve the cartoon people as well as it might. But Ottawa doesn't. They're not there to do that. They're there to embrace animation and all this as independent film, and that's what's wonderful about it.
Yeah.
But it does. But there's this huge cartoon. There's an industry here, and there are people who follow that, and there wasn't something for those people, and so you guys found a niche. You found a hole that was there.
Well, we found stuff that we wanted to see, so that's part of the fun thing about running TAAFI is like Mike is like, hey, let's have, blank come into the festival or whatever. So our first speaker was
John Kay.
We had John Kay, but what was the
Oh, Don Hertzfeld.
Don
Yeah,
Hertzfeld.
yeah.
So Don Hertzfeld was on this tour, and then Mike's
That was preceding the festival.
let's have Don Hertzfeld, and that's the fun thing is like I get to say let's have Eric Goldberg or Vilppu or Steven Silver or whoever. Like Rich was like
Cooley.
let's have Josh Cooley. So that's selfishly part of why TAAFI is great is we can just bring in some of these like incredible people and treat them to a lovely time, and then they tell people that TAAFI is great and they should come too.
But they all fit underneath that kind of same, like the audience would kind of connect amongst all those.
Yeah, and there are different spots on the spectrum. I mean, there are some of those guys that would cross over very well with Ottawa,
For sure, yeah.
and some less so.
Yeah, and that is one thing we did. We were aware of that. Like when we were putting the festival together, we were kind of like trying to make sure we weren't going to be butting heads or like horning in on someone else's action or something like that.
Because
Like,
they do it well, and
exactly,
and why would you even
it would
bother
be
to
dumb,
make
yeah.
it?
for
So
everybody.
was there, like, how clear a vision was there from the get-go as far as who you guys were and what you were going to do?
I think it's still, not completely clear. Like we're still exploring and trying to keep nimble about, what's gonna appeal most and service both. There was always the vision that we would have big headline speakers that would draw people in, and underneath that we wanted to highlight locally as much as possible. So that remains. But as far as like, are we for general public? Are we showing, adult animation only, or trying to appeal to everybody? We never wanted to
we tried
keep anybody out.
Yeah, and we tried different versions of it too. So I think like our third TAAFI, then we tried to be more open to the public with like a kids zone and some of that stuff. And like that was the year that we basically didn't make money. We lost money on that year because we tried to get too big and tried to get too for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike actually like bailed us out and saved TAAFI, I like to say. He threw in the $3,000 that we were short that year from his sweet storyboarding job. So then it's like, it's still trying to figure out what TAAFI is to Toronto, to us,
Okay.
how it fits, how it can be sustainable is the thing too. So just like any job, we're a board of directors that are beholden to, costs and savings and whatever. So it's always a gamble of, if we're putting on this master class, how much money do we have to make to even break even, and then can we bring that money into hiring somebody professionally, because we're all still just volunteers running this thing out of passion and sadness. So it's tricky.
It's funny how the two go hand in hand.
And we did learn valuable lessons about, how much should you cater to, the industry and the fans versus trying to like crack Toronto.
Right.
And we learned pretty quickly that it's like, no, you gotta hone in on the fans because everything is for them. Like, it even amped up more as far as workshops go and like that kind of stuff because we found those people were coming out more for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
People wanted to know more, yeah. So we had the master classes, and those are packed with like Eric Goldberg, whereas some of the screenings weren't as much. So we're finding like competing against ourselves is a bad thing as well during the festival. And I think the next morph of the festival is going to be completely different from
When you
what
say competing against yourself, what do you mean?
I mean, say if you're having 4 different streams at the same time.
So multiple events at the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like the big TAAFI festival, it has like 2 talks happening at once. It has 1 screening happening at the same time, and it has a masterclass going on. So there's only so many nerds in Toronto that want to see animation stuff, and they can only fill so many places in George
Right.
Brown.
And we'd have screenings where it would just be like 3 people, or that's an exaggeration, but it would be half empty.
Yeah.
And people would come out and say like, yeah, I was just learning how to live draw. You know, I wanted to see it.
But everything is so good is the thing, and all the screenings were amazing. So if you went into those, you'd have your mind blown, and if you went into a
Yeah.
talk, you'd have your mind blown. But it was like we're cannibalizing ourselves with these huge things. So
Right.
we're kind of making a sleeker, more agile Mike Valakut version of TAAFI,
Sleeker.
where he can like dodge and parry and climb things.
This is not a good
Yeah.
comparison here.
We'll cut to Skinny Mike winning the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put all that away again.
We'll show the picture of Mike as an altar boy.
Other Mike. There's gotta be some good dirt on Ben. Come on,
Yeah,
let's take it all out on him.
Yeah,
He's not here.
he's not here. He can defend himself. So Barney would always call Ben like a little bear, like a happy little bear. And there was one, that was the objective for one of our openings for one of the festivals, is Ben had to wear a bear costume. And he did. He saved it. Because remember, there was the film opened, and there was a problem with the projector or something, and it
Because
kind
it
of
was
stalled.
at TIFF.
Yeah. One of the many problems that we experienced just coincidentally at TIFF.
Yeah, just and nowhere else.
Yeah. Huh. But anyway, yeah. He actually came in his bear costume while the film was stalled, danced around, picked up a little kid. Everyone was applauding. It was the best.
Yeah.
And then he left to like a standing ovation, and the film started again.
Nice.
That was
the
the
greatest.
Barbarians film, I think.
No, that was the French one, was
Yeah.
it?
That Day of the Crows.
Day of the Crows, yeah.
Oh. But the
then he
funniest thing
moderated
was
this.
Ben
Yeah, that is right.
didn't even mind being a bear.
No, he
Which
is
was-
a team
We're like,
player.
and Ben can be in a bear suit. And Ben's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then we just marked it down. But I think didn't you borrow it and he soiled it or something?
The had sharp teeth. I think he broke the teeth on it.
Really?
Or not him, but we did. Maybe in transit.
Yeah.
Is this a rental?
It was a loan. So I don't know what.
It was a Lona.
Some people just have a bear costume lying around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know like some Rough Riders?
There were the first year was we really like I felt like we were heroes who brought this thing, and everything was any mistakes were forgiven.
Yeah.
But then year 2, it was an established thing that we had established as world class. You know, at least on the outer surface, it looked like a world class festival. And no longer are we volunteers, but we're employees responsible for delivering on, a professional product.
Yeah.
So whenever anything went wrong that year, it was more of a sobering moment where you're like, oh,
It was a funny coincidence.
I'm a volunteer here. I don't deserve this.
Yeah, and also it's funny because when we have our lives, like our day job and all that, and this is something else we're doing. It's like you don't have that mentality if somebody's worked in the Gap for 10 years. You're like, you can't fucking talk to me like that. Like, I'm here running this festival.
Yeah.
Something goes wrong, it's a festival. It's not. Sorry, can we swear?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. That's for all the time. It's like,
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, it was just there was an element of that to it for sure.
Okay. So because you led strong, it probably accelerated that process for you guys as far as you had to, like anything from there was particularly hard for you to bear.
Well, it's still a giant learning process.
Yeah.
Like when you're starting out the first year and it looks like it's nicely packaged, that's fortunate,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean it's still
Yeah,
has
it's
a long
many
way to go.
hours preparing and countless volunteers that are helping behind the scenes from any particular thing. So
Yeah.
we could name 100 volunteers
Oh,
probably
yeah.
that helped put it on.
Oh yeah.
So it's not just us. Like we founded it, but there's all these people now that believe in it and have drinking the TAAFI water and Kool-Aid. And so like, clearing out George Brown, we can have volunteers and bringing people in to, help with Staffy. Staffy, so many people just enjoy being volunteers year after
Yeah.
year.
And there was key people, like people who just for the same reason, like just for the sheer enthusiasm, kind of volunteered every year for like pretty important positions.
Yeah.
And again, we wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
Yeah. So you did have a bit of a hiccup in terms of your yearly schedule, which it's hard because I've had these conversations already. So I need you guys to explain how this process has gone. You've got this learning curve. You come out strong. The following year, you're realizing what that means, and that you have to take it seriously, and you don't want to fuck up, and because people think that it's this, and you guys are still learning as you go. But how do you keep that going? How do you how do you fund it? Volunteers you can get. You have to be able to manage those volunteers, but there's things that need to be funded. There are things that need to be run, and you guys all have lives, kids.
Things have changed.
Some more than others.
Yeah.
How does that transition? How do you keep this going? And you're coming at this as 4 individuals with potentially maybe different visions for it as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's why Mr. Box over there could be pretty helpful.
Yeah.
We had, involved sponsorship, we involved fundraising parties, that kind of stuff. And also separate events as well, like holding master classes. Those were not much work, but a lot of payoff because, you bring somebody in and people in the community want to learn directly from them.
Yeah.
And they're happy to sit, and pay for a course and, it's a couple days.
Right.
And then we can actually put that towards the festival.
So those smaller events are a big deal for you guys.
Well, they are and they aren't. Because we're always trying to figure out what's going to make us money.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So we tried Christmas parties, and we tried a welcome to the industry for graduates party, and then we did the main festival, and then we did master classes. So there's all these different attempts that we're making, and what we're actually working on right now is a TAAFI year schedule of where events fall within the year, so then everybody can basically hang their hat and say, this is going to happen in the spring, this is going to happen in the fall, this is going to happen around the winter time. So there's no guessing. So because right now it's sporadic, where it's oh, we're doing this thing, and people are cool, we're doing that. But it's formalizing some of what we've already done.
So do you feel that the shift seems to be that you're learning stability will come from servicing the Toronto community in terms of that?
Well,
do you feel that maybe you're sacrificing some of the international in your name?
The goal is to grow to that. Maybe if I could backtrack to the first year TAAFI and our relationship and how that kind of came here. There was no structure because we didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah.
So I would say there was a lot of stepping on each other's toes to try and, find our positions within that. Me probably more than anybody else, but before you become a well-oiled machine, just like this building process, and without the structure, it's just going to keep being that, and there's burnout because of that. Because without structure, the schedule we're talking about, there's no cash flow, there's no predictability as to when an event's going to happen, and then there's an event directly after that. Hopefully, it's not right on the heels. So, building a predictable structure is something that we've learned is super important. So we had 2 festivals, and then there was that year in between. We had 3, and then there was the year in between. And that's strictly if you're scrambling for three years to do 3 festivals, something's got to give. And that's when we took a break to say, hey, let's take these things we've learned, rebuild the team. The board changed over time, and all of these elements are working towards making a real company with a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. And so we've workshopped a lot of things over time, and trying to work towards back towards the yearly festival. But in the meantime, some things have come up that have worked better than others. So the parties were a lot of work, great for the community, maybe not financially viable.
So we got to find that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the job fair was a great addition.
Because in that year, it's not like you guys disappeared.
Yeah.
You had the job fair that year.
Yeah.
That kind of bridged the gap for you.
And we did a solid SWOT analysis. Let's not.
You did a what now? Sorry.
A SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses.
But you know,
aubergines.
it just as we were talking about that, it made me realize the white whale we had always been going after was like a little bit of government support or a little bit of like grant money, because you know so many festivals depend heavily on that kind of thing, and without that, we were kind of like just picking whatever we could to fund, you know, help us get through, and that's why we did have to kind of after 3 years take
Give
a
up
step
the
back.
ghost because we're not going to get government funding.
Yeah.
Do not?
Yet. Well, we haven't up until now. We have a little bit of City of Toronto money, but it's not anything that's like, here you go, put on a festival, and they're like, woo, I'll hire somebody. So that's always been in our plan, and we almost achieved it, but then we didn't.
Don't point at me. Had nothing to do with it. Because other festivals survive off of that.
Yeah.
So,
So we're
why-
still building towards that.
What's falling short for you?
I think it's more of having a focused person on specifically on that meeting,
But-
looking at the deadlines.
But also, I don't think our mandate necessarily fits, you know, what grants.
Yeah.
Like, especially with cartoons, you kind of have to prove yourself a little more as a culturally important thing, you know?
Oh, it's the same thing trying to finance the kinds of cartoons I want to make.
Yeah.
This is what I sit there like I'm pitching things to all the broadcasters that I'm being told are not commercial enough for them. But if I go to arts funding, it's too commercial for arts funding.
Yeah,
So it's
somewhere
that
in
kind of thing.
between.
It's the problem of cartoons. It's the challenge of cartoons.
We did have an intimate meeting with the Lieutenant Governor.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
We went into his inner office.
We had cranberry juice.
Yeah. He shot a boiled egg from his mouth into my mouth. That was pretty good.
Traditional.
It was a traditional
greeting.
We golf clapped.
traditional.
Was it pickled?
Yeah,
Was it pickled?
it was pickled.
All right.
I think he pickled it himself.
Then that's what makes it official.
Yeah. But that didn't lead us anywhere, really. Got us escorted out of the building. Right, Ben?
I don't know what to take seriously. So how do you? So what's the path forward at this point?
So we've had some great additions to the board. Morgan Fortier was a key team.
It's always good to add a describer to when you say someone's name. Morgan Fortier.
Oh, well.
From Tin Man.
Yes, co-owner of Startoon.
No, not co-owner of Startoon.
Startoon. Skyship. Co-owner
Try that.
of
Try that
Sky-
again.
Yeah.
Try that again. We've had some great additions to the board.
Morgan Fortier was a key addition. She's the
Co-owner of
she was in your
Startoon.
last podcast. Co-owner of Starship.
She owned Chorus.
I'm sorry, Morgan. He does know who you are. I promise.
She has
Nervous.
teeth.
Yeah.
And a face.
Yeah.
Diarrhea sometimes.
So we had
unnecessary.
some great additions to the board. Morgan Fortier, she was on your last podcast, co-owner of Skyship Entertainment.
There you go.
Hey.
And Tin Man, thank you. Tin Man Creative. You know, on the fund, so she's been great for the structure I was talking about, bringing some of that in. Our board meetings have been much tighter. We used to go from 6 a.m. till midnight sometimes during production phase. But
And sometimes 6 p.m. But definitely till like 11 o'clock. So it was like 11 o'clock and we're like, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
And there's so much still to go. And Mike had like 3 pages of doodles. He's like, I'm good.
It was productive for me.
on the funding side, Sherry Cohen, who used to work with OMDC,
Yeah.
she's come on. She's educated us a lot about what kind of needs to be seen in the programming to make us eligible for that kind of funding. So if we're focusing too much on industry training that's targeted at particular subset, then it's not job creation. It doesn't fit a mandate of a certain fund. So there's pieces that we're putting in place now to be able to.
And if you're watching this podcast and you're a good grant writer, just email us because we could use you.
Good point.
I think we all could.
So yeah, I mean, we're learning a lot still. I wouldn't say we're professional festival runners just yet, as far as being able to take a model and build up another festival, but we're learning this thing, and it's getting better and better.
Well, it's getting more grown up for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
and we're learning what people like and we're building that audience.
Yeah, and we're looking to expand to the international part of the thing. That
Yeah.
always was the goal.
Yeah. But
To not be completely local.
Yeah, I think the problem was we tried to get out of the gate and be like everything to everybody right off the bat. And then we weren't quite that, and we're like, okay, well, let's try it this other way, and then to be everybody to everybody, and then like that didn't quite work either. And then it's like taking it back and thinking about it, and like who is really liking what we're doing, and that's like students in industry, and then really focusing on what those folks want to do and what they like, and then bringing in more of that, and then building it from that core out, which is what every great organization does, is build from the core. So we're doing some core drilling right now.
Yep. Cordial.
Cornholing.
No.
What we-
we're not doing that.
what we call it in the industry is a little bit of cornholing.
So,
Well, that's as good an edit point as any.
right, sure. Well, that's like, yeah. But okay, so but part of this, but there are 4 of you guys, and you're figuring it out as a group, and plus advisory board, plus board of directors.
I mean, yeah.
A lot of other festivals in the world seem to be driven by a very singular vision. And that can be a strength and weakness, but it makes for a very it maybe lends itself to creating identity quickly, or at least, I mean, a lot of them. Even something like Ottawa, they had decades before they became what they are now, and there were different people that come along. But when you've got someone like Kelly and you've got someone like Chris, who are so closely associated for so long with something like that, there's a very clear identity to that place.
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 of you guys in basically the driver's seat, and then you've got advisory board. Is there a dilution of vision? Is there something here that you think? I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to understand this.
Yeah.
Because you came out with a very strong sense, or at least projecting a very strong sense of self. But now here we are 5 years in, and you're figuring it out, and you're still figuring it out. And maybe that's your identity. Maybe it is that it's about figuring this out and being what you need to be from year to year, or maybe not year to year, but like it's addressed because the industry changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, how does that work with 4 people steering the ship?
I should point out, I'm not involved currently.
Currently, okay.
After the last festival, I had to take, priority in other areas of my life.
Well, yeah,
'cause I
Ben's an
was-
asshole. I mean,
Well, no,
yeah.
yeah, it was just Ben and his gap-toothed smile. But yeah, no, I'm no longer involved. But
Okay.
that was like as everything else was getting formed with the festival. I think that's something that develops along with that. I don't think anybody was more insistent that they be the driver than anyone else. Like I think together we all kind of learned what worked. What.
But then
we
how do you
wanted.
create, it still needs to feel like it has a vision.
Mhm.
How do the 4 of you come together to create a singular vision?
I think you just kind of pick the direction you want to lead in, and then everyone kind of just puts their energy towards
Yeah.
that direction.
It's
and
been,
then
it's been like that. Whoever's got like expressing the most passion that year.
But it's also, I think even it takes, like, even if you really wanted something after a while, it's not right for
Right.
it. Even if you really want to see it in there, you're like,
Mhm.
all right, well, I'm not going to fight for this, or I'm not going to die on this hill because I
Pick
know.
your battles.
Yeah, exactly.
Like everything else, pick your battles.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I do remember that first board meeting that we had at TIFF, and it was Chris Landreth. He was there for that first advisory board meeting,
Yeah.
and Ellen Besson was there. They were both saying the same thing, which is, what is your voice?
Yeah.
What is
Mhm.
your vision? And I was just sitting there quietly going, "I'm gonna show some cartoons."
Yeah.
Do we need that? But they were very direct about that, and now 5-6 years later, I'm like, yeah, that was an important question. It's not as simple as taking submissions, curating, and then here's your festival for
Well,
longevity.
When we were getting it together, though, it was such an avalanche of things to
Mhm.
deal
Yeah.
with. We weren't even thinking, and to have somebody point that out, it was like, yeah, that's pretty key.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get back to it when we have money in the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see a day? How do you see this going? I mean, so you've stepped away.
Mhm.
is this going to be someone's life's work? Or is this something you guys are going to continue to do in your spare time? Is this like at some point, or is there some or do you see a day where someone comes along who makes it their life's work, and you find the right person who you'd be happy to hand off that way to?
I think the idea is to make it what it is, and then people come in and curate it. Like it's almost like, you know,
It's its own entity.
yeah.
It shouldn't be attached to any one individual.
No,
Yeah.
I think we all put ourselves into this festival, but it's modular enough that people can come in and grab onto this chunk and say, I'm going to do speaker programming this year, or I'm going to do film programming, or I'm going to do marketing. So I think we want to build it to a point where, and we always talk about this, but it's not actualized yet, is like we're a board, but we're not the doers. We help, you know, make sure that everything is running. And so I think we want to hire like a creative director that'll run this, much like other festivals do.
Mhm.
And so it's basically getting the festival to that point where we can hire somebody, and then all of us can still help, but maybe a little bit more from the sidelines than
Yeah.
leading the charge as much as we are.
So you do see that like a good, maybe not next step, but there's a step there where someone comes along to hold a full-time position and potentially could make it their life's work.
Yeah.
And not that you guys would have to be gone from that picture, but you've got someone that you can trust and you can have faith in to actually be potentially both an administrator and have some creative vision for it.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's our festival so much as we started it for us, but also for the people. For the people, by the people. So then, like, it doesn't have to be us running this thing. It could be any smart individual with a good set of teeth. They could find films that are amazing and put them on, and I would watch them, and they could bring in incredible speakers, and I would see those, and then other people can help get sponsorship and work with marketing.
That was kind of the plan from pretty early on, like at least from the third festival on. We were trying to figure out how to install people so they could actually have a viable position.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, again, coming back to money and that kind
Yeah.
of thing, it's a tricky thing
Yeah.
to do to get it, especially in the first 5 festivals or so. Like, that's pretty ambitious.
I mean, you guys have made it this far. You know, you're still here. And it is one of those things where, like, it's a cool idea, you do one, and I think there's certainly a sentiment of, like, if you guys are still around in 5 years, then you're for real. You know, and here you are, you're still around,
Mhm.
which is huge already. And it's been a tricky 5 years figuring out what will sustain this.
Mm-hmm.
At its core, you still want to show cartoons.
I love them.
Yeah.
I think I love them more that I'm not involved in
You
as much.
can enjoy them again, right? Yeah, that happens at every level of this stuff.
But I think each of us has been able to step back a little bit because of this core volunteers and new volunteers who come in.
Mhm.
We know a bit about what we're doing now, so we can relate this as a sequence of events to make our part of the piece happen. So yeah, things have changed for me personally, where work has become more challenging. Life has changed with the addition of children. And so now I have some great volunteers that are stepping up into the management position, so I can step away now. So that's the goal, and then when it becomes a real company that can support a staff,
Yeah.
you know, that's the real goal. And then that's really like, we can feel comfortable that people won't be one day saying, remember that thing, TAAFI?
Yeah.
You know? So there's a lot of energy now to keep it going, and we're working towards making it something that can hire a staff, and then, you know, success.
Yeah, and we can hand it off to the next bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
They can continue to make it great and strange.
You can cash out all your big taffy dollars and retire.
Well, that's the hard thing, is it's a not-for-profit. If we made it for a for-profit, then we could each be drawing a salary from it, and then we could have epic Oldsmobiles that
Big
we drive around in.
cigars.
There's Mike and his Oldsmobile.
It runs on cigars.
Pulling up in your Chrysler LeBaron. We need these events. Certainly, we're an industry where people, we go, whether we're working in a studio or working from home, there's a lot of freelancers, and over time, even in the lifespan of my own career, we've become a much more socialized group of human beings in this industry. I have had to send people home to have a shower in the past, and it happens a lot less now. People, we want somewhere to go, and the internet has been so huge for us in terms of keeping us all connected to each other, but we crave that communal experience. And you guys have given it, at least in this city, you've done that.
We've given it a bit of a face. We always saw TAAFI as a bit of an umbrella to support everything else that's going on. So things like TACE, things like Barry's Animatic TO, and Tunes on Tap. There's all this great stuff, and if we can help support that stuff, I'd always see us helping. And we only have so much time, and even if each of us can pop into a CASO meeting or this and that, then that's the beauty of it. Is
so working with CASO. So a lot of people may not know, a lot of the viewers may not know much about these organizations. Animatic TO, I think we've done them, so we've covered that. Anybody who watches regularly would know what those are. TACE is something that we haven't really gotten too involved with here yet.
Yeah,
do you guys play well together?
I used to teach workshops through TACE, and they're wonderful. I've taken workshops, I've taught workshops there. They are very rooted in the arts of animation. They do excellent programs now where they actually provide filmmakers like a little opportunity to make a film under their roof and with a grant and that kind of thing. Like it's really.
I helped do a bit of jurying for them for that last intake of all their.
There
students.
seems to be some fresh air at TACE. I don't know them well. I know a few people who work there, and people I like a lot. But I haven't had much personal experience with them since I've been in town. But it does seem like all of us, like in the last 2 years, sort of, they've really become far more. I don't know. They're just out there a lot more than they were. It seems like I know they moved, and there were some changes that went on.
Yeah.
You know Evan Durashi well.
Yeah.
He's worked in the industry, which I think he's the new president of TACE.
Okay.
I think he still is. And I have not been involved with TACE before recently, where we started to work together on TAAFI. But he brings that industry experience in.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I don't think it's changed their programming per se, but it helps with the bridging of the
put it
gap.
out there a little bit more. I think there's a lot of good things happening right now. So it's like TAAFI and Tin Man kind of started at the same time. The Startoons thing is happening right now, and there's so much talent that's coming out of Toronto, out of all the schools, that something really big is going to happen. It's like a Gozer effect, or it's going to blow the top off some type of building, maybe this building, but there's some kind of energy, and hopefully there won't be so much brain drain, and we can make our own cartoons, and maybe TAAFI and Startoons and Tin Man and Sam Chu and whoever else can help make that happen. I don't know how. I don't think tax credits are going to help, but some way, somehow, I think we're fighting a good fight.
It's like the Avengers.
A little bit like that. I don't know the comics so much. I'll just relate it back to Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Stick with your Gozer analogy.
Yeah, Egon.
Yeah.
Can I get a little? What's your relationship with CASO? I know you guys have gotten more involved with each other in the last year or so. First of all, maybe someone can explain what CASO is to some people who may not know.
Well, Ben would do a better job, so I'll just speak in his voice. It's the Computer Animation Studios of Ontario.
Shake the balls.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like some type of lobby group that people subscribe to. We don't quite understand what they are, but basically,
It's a great thing to admit.
they're this group of animation studios that work together for good, and they tried to job fair
It's like
a few
the
times.
VFX studios and some animation studios.
Yes.
More, yeah.
And I'm sorry, Ben, I'm just botching this whole part, but basically they are on the force of good, and we're on the force of good, and it just so happened that we both wanted to do an animation job fair type thing. So we put them on separately in years past, and it was like, hey friends, why don't we all work together and put on a job fair? So then Matt Bishop and Nisha and everybody was like, that's a great idea. So then we worked together and put on a job fair this year, and it was a huge success. And everybody was like shaking hands, and Mayor Job Tory was there, and then he was like, "Wah, da, 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 da," and it was amazing. So then just more of that kind of thing when we have partnerships with important people, then it's great kind of cross-pollinating. Again, being that umbrella effect on Toronto is bringing these people together that maybe we still don't know what they are, but we're working together with them.
I don't think Ben could have put it any better.
In all of this, are people still going to see the cartoons? Job fair is a huge success. Workshops are great. Where do the cartoons fit in?
That's an interesting question, because I think there's always an audience for that. But it's also, you have so much exposure to content through so many different media.
The internet.
Yeah, exactly. So like, screenings themselves aren't necessarily as special as the festival itself, I don't think. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's getting into the festival mood, then they're going to go to the screenings. But I don't think anybody's going to be going like, oh, we have to go to that festival to go see those screenings.
Right. Most of the
If
stuff
that
you
makes
can
sense.
see. Yeah. No, I understand. That's kind of why I'm asking, because
Yeah.
there is something to sitting in a theater, watching these things all in a curated sense. Like, it's what I go to Ottawa for. I don't get to enough screenings, but whenever you do, I always say about Ottawa, like the programming is amazing, and like, and they kind of force you to watch a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So like, I get so angry,
But
I fall asleep, and I
do-
see something beautiful
Yeah.
every fucking time.
But you know numerically which ones to go to. You're like, I know what's going to be in this one. This Friday night one is always a little crazy and like that kind of thing.
So, but do you see yourself, because yes, most of this stuff now, I mean, a lot of these people don't put their stuff out there right away online because of the festival rules for a lot of places, which is somewhat out of date. But there are still a lot of festivals that do maintain, if your film is shown online, we're not going to show your film.
Well, one example I can think of is one of the best screenings we had, in my opinion, was Nova Seed, the animated feature, because it was this one dude who made this feature film, and everybody was just like electric. Because it was funny too, because he made it, and I don't think he had a sense of I shouldn't put words in his mouth, but we reached out to him way earlier than that, and he was like, oh, we're still figuring out what to do with it. And then when he finally did decide to show it, it was this awesome event. So it's like, that's the kind of thing that only happens at a festival, when all those people gathered there are interested in what he's doing, and a lot of them are ambitious to do to what he's doing. So it's like, to see that reaction to something like that is just awesome.
Yeah, delivering those films that you wouldn't see otherwise, because we're all so busy, and there's so many things on Netflix that are not there. So it's Mike finding these gems and then saying like, you're going to see this film. And I remember sitting in the audience for Nova Seed, and my brain was continually exploding and being like, this is amazing, and we're bringing it to all these people in Toronto, and they're so lucky, and we're so lucky, and we're so blessed. # blessed.
But it's creating an experience.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
That's the difference, I think, between just sitting at home watching it and going to the festival.
Yeah.
I think it is more about the camaraderie and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I was not in that screening. I was outside at my booth, and I remember everyone coming out afterwards, and I wanted to see it, and I couldn't go, and I knew I had missed out on something. I did see it at Ottawa, and it was a very similar reaction.
I'm sure
it was like the last. It was an outdoor screening at the last night. We watched Chad Van Galen's 17-minute film first.
Oh, awesome.
So it was this great little double bill, and it was. You were seeing something that was an experience. And we tried to get him for an interview for here, but they won't. He's making his next film, and they won't let him talk to anybody anymore. So I'm shit out of luck trying to interview him. We're trying to get Chad Van Galen too to do an interview.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I've been a fan for years and years. And
we
years.
showed Naked Frames. We showed some of his
Right.
films.
I just love it. The fact that any one person is so good at two things like that both require you to be better than anybody at them just to be decent.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Like it's even like Spencer. We have this guy at Smiling at Spencer Skirt, who's a magician.
Yeah.
Being a magician, and I mean, he's a young guy, and he's pretty good. I'm sure he's got a long way to go, But to be a magician, the dedication it takes to do that is very similar.
Yeah.
And the dedication it takes to be an animator. I'm not an animator. Animating is not something that I can make my brain do properly. So for somebody to be able to do both, like, go to hell.
Yeah, I know. You always see people like that. You're like, come on, share it.
Yeah.
Spread it
You
around.
got all the talent?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, I'm hoping we can get a talk with Chad Van Galen, because that would be very cool. That'd
Yeah,
be a
that-
personal thing for me.
Yeah.
you know?
Totally, yeah.
So you're saying like curating these things, so you get to have,
Well, you have to get some enjoyment out of it, too.
yeah, I'm trying to do that with this year. It's like, apart from, maybe tonight. But,
Yeah.
and that's just because I've had Barney here so many fucking times now. There was some talk about getting him to co-host with me this year.
Oh, my God.
Anytime. Come by on Mondays at noon.
Have you
Robbie's
There was
coming.
no talk about
Robbie's
that.
coming in.
My phone is on, and it hasn't been ringing. You're like, maybe you'll come in for Startoon. And I was like, great. And I started telling people, and then I shouldn't have.
Mondays at noon. Come by
Because
anytime.
there's nothing, and all this dust is on your table for
And
your
where it came
lives.
from? It came from your gloves,
It
man.
just occurred to me. Are you going to put a thing on the screen explaining why he's dressed like
No,
this?
no.
Okay, I won't say another word.
This is just what he looks like. Yeah, Mondays at noon. Anytime. Come by and do the live shows with me.
I am teaching at Seneca College,
Ah!
the better place.
Robbie's coming in this Monday. We're going to talk about scope creep, leading into the next challenge. Hope because it's deadline day. Hopefully everything comes in, and if it's not, we'll be having a very apropos conversation about scope creep. Yeah, anytime Mondays at noon.
No coming earlier.
We tried doing them live earlier. I wanted to do them at 9 a.m. every when I'm having my coffees. Now I just have another coffee.
I'll come in at 8 a.m. We'll do the pre-show.
Right. Okay. I don't mind doing that. I'm gonna make T-shirts. I got this mug that says "fuck death," and I can't show that, because the live one we try to keep it a little cleaner.
Sure.
So I just put this tape over. It says "hug."
Oh, there it is.
There's mine. So we put this tape over, which wrote "hug." The first day I was like, I had to cover something, so I wrote "hug." So I'm gonna get these hug. I want to make "hug death" T-shirts. See if it catches on. I'll start wearing them. I won't say anything. I'll just wear them. See if anybody wants one. Well, you never know. So you're out. You guys are still in. Are you going to do anything with the festival? Is this something?
It's not.
Are you like dead to them now?
No. It's not it's all amicable. It was more just a time thing because at the time I was co-directing 2 shows, and teaching, and doing the festival, and I just thought this is too much.
He was too busy,
Yeah.
and it was best if he took care of Mike.
Are you a married fella?
Not at the moment. No. I'll just say no. I don't know why I made it more complicated. Put a backstory to that. No.
So are there other people in your life you're letting down by being involved in TAAFI?
That's something where, you make those life priorities.
Yeah.
change. Also, you know what, this is something I haven't really talked about, but after kind of working to facilitate other people in the industry, I love it. I love seeing the fans enjoy stuff. I want to actually go back to making stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm diving back
Yeah.
into now.
I think that's what we all struggle with as well, is making things. And Mike made some beautiful films back in the day with sandwiches going into people's coffins and things. And Rich made lovely films as well, and it's like trying to balance running things and making things and working and being human in relationships.
I think we all had that in common. I think that's a common thread, is that I don't think any of us is content to just work a job or that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I think it doesn't take a lot of convincing to get us to do other stuff on top of it.
Because it's very rewarding doing TAAFI. It's not because I don't know. It's like a weird addiction, I guess, in a way. That it's like every Wednesday night in your life you want to ruin with making a festival. But it's like every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of every month, then we get together and like throw around these ideas of like, do you want to get this speaker? Do you want to get, this idea of shorts? Do you want to give this award to this amazing Canadian international filmmaker? And it's like, yes, yes, and yes. It's like plussing it and making it better and having fun and eating pizza. Free pizza, Mike.
It is like, it's so.
That's the other guy with the beard.
I know.
It's so much work. Like, it's an unbelievable amount of work, but there is satisfaction that comes out of it. So it's like, you're kind of like, why am I doing this? And you're just kind of like, well, because it's fun. Like, I want to keep doing it because it's actually, like, you get something out of it after you stop complaining about how much, extra work it is, you're like, it's great.
And like everybody always asks me, I'm teaching at either Seneca or Sheridan, and people are like, when is TAAFI happening? How can I be involved? I want to watch things, who your speakers are going to be. So like there's always this excitement, especially with the kids these days. So it's like we've built this thing now, and we have to feed it with content and blood.
Yeah.
So that's where board meetings come in, and then we build it. So it's something that we built and we're proud of, and we don't want to see it die because it's like our little creepy baby with soft eyes, and so we just want we wanted to see it do good in the world, and somehow
It's more of a big squishy baby, really. It's a giant squishy baby.
it's an amorphous.
Yeah, it's kind of like the baby from Spirited Away. It's a giant squishy baby.
It's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids
Break your
too.
arms.
Yeah, yeah, break your
Well, that's part of it as well. Like, I worked with this guy for years, and I saw what it was like when he was trying to get that website.
Yeah.
Balancing something like this in your life, like I know even just for me, like even trying to keep K-Animation Resources afloat and updated is enough. Is all I can handle.
Yeah, it's huge.
So maintaining that kind of balance, it's got to put a lot of pressure on various aspects of your life. How it's, especially when you're starting it. You know, what is...
I think we were gonna go on stage together at the closing ceremonies, hold hands and have a heart attack together and die as the finale. That first year was crazy, and I think, it was basically an entrepreneur's life we were walking into, and those things always start with passion, and then reality hits, and you realize, there's a lot of work involved. But you're already doing it, and the passion just kind of, grows at certain stages, and it ebbs at others. But then the thing happens, and you're like, okay, this is what it was for, and then you have a crash.
Yeah, post festival depression. Like, I don't even want to do anything. I don't want to watch cartoons.
Yeah.
I do remember we had like a thing after the first festival where we were like, we have to give at least a month, because I can't remember who said it, but they were like, I don't want to see any of your faces for a month.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, and all of us were just like unspokenly like,
It was-
yep,
it was
no
probably
offense
Alex.
intended. Yeah, I think it was actually.
Get out of here.
But I think it is like the analogy would be, for coming from a man, this makes no sense. Birth is a painful event, but people will do it again because the reward is great, and to be able to be part of something like this has been really great. And so you have that crash, it's really hard along the way, but the benefit is great. And so for us, being part of that is really rewarding. So you go back in, and but life changes. So you have to make it into something that's sustainable, and we're working on that.
You're just going to keep holding your hand out.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to go first? I don't know, me?
It's going to be you. We all know it's going to be you. You're just lucky that's all he's holding on to. Highlights of the last couple of years. What have been the personal highlights of it for you guys, for each of you individually, or like meeting something like what is it? What is it about what has it fulfilled for you personally? I'll start over here because these guys have a little something going
they're
on.
still winding down. What Barney mentioned before, Don Hertzfeld was pretty awesome.
Yeah?
Because he's just like, like a hero, kind of this self-made independent filmmaker who does his own style, his own sense of humor, by his own terms. And he did our festival. He was super nice. We took him, he was jet lagged, and we took him to, what was the restaurant?
Good. It's
The
like a
loudest
super loud
restaurant.
Japanese restaurant.
Oh,
Where
yeah,
you walk
yeah.
in, everyone just screams in your face, and we also learned he doesn't like seafood or something.
Yeah.
But he was so nice.
Total misfire.
Yeah, no, it was great though. The event itself was so awesome. Everyone, I think it attracted people from outside of the animation world because he's that popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really cool. I'll think of other ones, but that was one for me.
I like working with the opening ceremonies. I always think like the start of TAAFI is going to be like this big like kickoff that's super exciting. So for the first couple of years. Then I've helped write like an opening ceremonies. So we celebrated like Gertie the dinosaur's 100th birthday with like a spoof of Gertie the dinosaur, and we had live musicians playing. And then last year we brought in Eric Goldberg and the Three Tuners, and so had like a Hanna-Barbera cross-pollination with like a debacle of the genie coming out of the lamp. So some of those things, to me, are very fun because they kick off the festival. Even like the first year too, with we had Ronald the Barbarian, and then we had barbarians like in drummers
down the
coming
street,
in,
King
and,
Street.
yeah, and
Yeah,
we
it
had
was
this
like
whole.
some kind of outdoor procession.
Yeah.
So like those kind of like those big things of kicking off that we're just this little festival, but we have these big ways of introducing it and celebrating it. To me, is a lot of fun.
I would have to say the screening of Nova Seed was probably my favorite moment.
Yeah.
Year one was amazing. I really enjoyed the Josh Cooley event in between, but Nova Seed brought back all those feelings of like, this is what it was built for, to be able to premiere something like this. It was like super special film.
Yeah.
I was on a high for days after that one because I didn't know what to expect. Excuse me. I didn't know what to expect from that, and then the talk afterwards was just like as mind blowing as the film. To know what Nick went through to create that film, and to be part of that as a premiering festival was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What Ben wants to say is that he likes building the outreach of the festival because he's on like a first name basis with every studio in town and everybody that's doing things. So he's very connected, and that's what Ben is great at is both being connected and connecting other people with each other. So I think he brings that largely to the forefront within the festival is really networking and being the voice sometimes when we're all too shy to talk to people.
And on a personal level, I know that the personal highlight for Ben was sharing the stage with me, and I think the first TAAFI to have completely contradictory approaches to the same conversation as far as building a career.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
back when you had a cane too.
I was shaking my cane at people. Yeah, I know it was a big career highlight for him was to get to just be with me for that. And I know if he were here, he'd be saying.
He told me that. I forgot to bring it up.
He texted that to you. Make sure you tell. Yeah, just
He's-
being with Mike.
He asked not to do that in the last one. So.
I just remembered one other one.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you mind if I?
Yeah, please.
It just because it involves Rick Pottruff, and I just remember like he's a teacher we had at Sheridan, and he was like in our last year he was like one of the few glimmers of light I saw in the industry because he was so weird. He would just bring a stack of posters in of like these weird like post-apocalyptic 80s movies and stuff, and he'd be like, look at that, that's great. And we'd just be like,
It's Chud, man, it's
yeah,
Chud.
yeah. But he was the greatest, and I respect him so much. And I just remember him coming out of one of the screenings that I remember like organizing and stuff, and he was like, that was some really good stuff. Like he was just so.
You got some affirmation?
Yeah, it was all I needed. I was like,
That's
oh, yeah,
awesome.
Was it Ross though, by chance?
No, it was one of the shorts.
Yeah.
That's another one though, Rosto. That was
Yeah.
another
What's
one I really
Rosto?
love. He's
So-
this filmmaker from the Netherlands. He makes like these gritty noir CG / live action films.
Okay.
And I actually first saw them in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with them. I was obsessed with them. I ordered DVDs from him
Okay.
personally for like $100 each. And I actually got to talk with him. And I was like giddy. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. But we showed one of his films in our first edition, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a retrospective with.
Yeah, that's right, with his
With
latest
his
one
latest
at the
one.
time. But yeah, that was super cool too. Again, it's like all about meeting your heroes and getting
Well,
them
so Chad Van Galen is going on tour shortly.
yeah.
And like the number of times I said to Ottawa, you should get him to come and play, do a gig as your closing party, so that people will come from inside the festival and do a career retrospective.
Oh,
Like he's coming through town at some point, like in the fall.
God, that would be
You guys
great.
should reach out now and see about getting him, like do a Chad Van Galen retrospective, one off one night if it's on his tour. Like fuck, man, that's what this stuff is for, right? So you
Yeah.
can have that, you can be a part of that and do that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you. You're not involved anymore. You guys.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I'll buy
Bernie.
one. I'll buy 2 tickets.
But it is, so it's, I mean, it's one of these things where, like, when I first started going to Ottawa, and I'm going as a kid, and I don't know anybody, and it's terrifying, and I'm shy, and you see some really cool shit, and you go again, and you see some of the same people, because you go to some of the panels, and you hear them, find out who this person is, and who that person is, and who Linda Semensky is, and who Marv Newland is, and whatever, and then you see them talking to each other, and you're like, oh, they know each other. There's just, like, these people who know each other. And you go back, and for me, it was like, back then it was every 2 years. And then I started working in animation. Then I actually would see people that I would know. And you slowly, for me, it was like a very long, slow process of kind of becoming a part of this community. I had a window into it when I went to my first Comic-Con in San Diego. And you could see who the cool kids were. And like I was talking to Mike Allred, and I was getting him to sign something for me, and I was a complete idiot. And there was some guy next to me like, can I shoot 37? And I'm like, I'm not with him. Like, please, like, don't think I'm like that. And I'll never be part of that club because like I just didn't pursue that. But you guys are creating a space for that to happen for other people now, for the next round of these people to come along and find a place for themselves. The community comes out in a way that we need to. Like, I mean, we always talk about Ottawa because Ottawa is so international. That it's like this gathering of the tribe that comes together. Like, used to be every 2 years.
30-year-old. It's an institution.
Yeah, and it's not every year it's the same people, but over the course of 5 years you'll have enough overlap with this group of X hundred number of people who kind of you'll be at 3 out of the 5, and everyone will be at 3 out of the 5 festivals, and you get to see each other. And the idea that you guys are doing that, first of all, you're doing it on a local level, which is great. We need it. Then there are enough of us here that you can do that on a local level. And the idea that could expand, like you've got some good, like everybody you just talked about who've been here the last couple of years, they're going to come back at some point, you know, because they've been here once before, and they're going to know a couple more people.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with the Toronto-centric festival and crowd too, is like the festival can only take so much credit for that, because it's like that community really is there. You know what I mean? It's like almost like it just needs an excuse.
Do you see your like repeats in terms of like your volunteer?
There's super loyal people.
Yeah.
Like I don't mean to discount that, because there are people who really give it.
Yeah.
And even the fans, like they're so dedicated and they're so like into it. And it's awesome, because that used to be like I used to go to Ottawa every year, and it's cool to see people who go to TAAFI.
Yeah, they're having that experience here with something that you guys started.
There was a guy, kid, who came with his dad at the first festival. And I saw him there, and I was just surprised to see anybody outside of the industry who was there. So I talked to him then, and he's been back every year. I think he's going to college. I don't know where he's going, but he's consistently come back, which has been a really cool thing.
Yeah.
See that we're facilitating an event which is fostering a relationship with a career in animation.
Yeah.
So that's been cool to witness.
Yeah. Like it's always a huge kick for me when I get somebody telling me that they got their first job off of a job post on Canadian Animation Resources. And that's such a huge, like, it just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Right? And so the fact that you guys have something that is physically real every year or so, where people can have those same experiences and come back to and with another year experience under their belt. You're building this occasional clubhouse.
Yeah.
You know, which is pretty amazing.
So yeah, I mean, it was just an excuse, and all the energy and passion was there, and there's animatic TO, and I think even if there wasn't a TAAFI, there's like that energy for this to keep going. But we still got a drive and passion behind TAAFI to keep that motivation going. So hopefully it can just keep on living.
It is funny because like when again you look over the course of just 5 years, and that's for me the timeline is when I came to town and you guys were doing this stuff, and there was a really strong sense of something building and that there were these needs happening. Yeah. Now we're all a little bit older and we have other things in our lives, and it's you can see that kind of it does wane. You know, like it's the energy that we felt at the time. It's not the same, but there's and all of a sudden you guys are something that's established. You know, like you're not these little upstart things, and you may still feel like it, but to the outside world, it's something that's expected, and it's.
I remember this too when you came to town. Sam came to town, Sam Chu. TAAFI was starting, Tin Man was starting. All these things were happening at once, and I was really excited. I'm like,
It's
this
empty
is.
if you want to put it in.
It felt like a big moment in the industry. And now, TAAFI's established, and there's where it's waning for us, but there's all sorts of things happening that we don't know about, and they may be happening under the umbrella of TAAFI, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we'll find out about them later.
Well, that's it. And trying to find how to help. What can this now do for those next rounds of people? And
Yeah,
because we at some
exactly.
point we do kind of have to get out of the way a little
Yeah.
bit. And yeah, it's making room for that
Yeah.
and using the thing that you've created. Like, I don't know what to do with Canadian Animation Resources. Like, I would love to find that person to take over to a certain
Right.
degree and be able to share that workload, because I'm not doing enough with it.
Yeah.
But
For us, I think about you a lot when I'm like updating, content for TAAFI, which is like very sparse because it's seasonal.
Yeah.
It's event based.
yeah.
And your thing doesn't stop. It's always like
No, it doesn't. It's mostly
Yeah.
the job post these days, though, and
Yeah.
it's always trying to find something. Like, for me, it's what I'm doing here at Startoon is a lot of what I always wanted to do with Canadian Animation Resources. I would love to have gotten to the point where we were doing podcasts and doing that kind of thing, but there were never any resources for that, and so I'm having to do a day job, so you can't do it. Whereas now my day job is doing it, but it's doing it somewhere else, and really I should but I have my own issues about I don't want to just every week paste over what I'm doing on Startoon over on a Canadian Animation, even though I probably should, because it's the exact same content I would be doing. But I just feel like it's sort of too self-serving and too much self-promotion for my own stomach. But probably I'm just making that shit up in my own head.
Yeah, it's I'm sure for you you're so close to both. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell, and you wanna create some.
But at the same time, it's exactly what if someone
Yeah.
else were doing it, I would be
Yeah.
posting it anyhow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird place to be at.
Yeah.
But you guys have yours is a more dynamic situation, a more dynamic organization with more people involved and all that kind of stuff. So it is something that can take on a life more on its own. Like you were saying, and you can guide it and hopefully find that person who might hold the job to take it forward. And it was interesting, my exposure to you all, and I speak just purely from my own personal experience with you, like meeting you and Ben initially at Ottawa was an interesting kind of yin and yang situation with you and Ben. Ben is your salesman. Ben is your producer. I mean, he may not be doing a great job of it right now, but he's, like you said, those qualities that you saw, he would be the producer, and he does. And he reads every book about this stuff, and that's where I was joking earlier about how we both took different approaches to the same thing in terms of career building. Because Ben is, this book says this, and this book says that. This, it's all that kind of that approach. Whereas with me, it's just sort of like, well, here's what worked and here's what didn't, and fuck off. Maybe not quite. Maybe a little more delicate than that. But meeting the two of you, and I don't know what you are. You're this lovable clown.
Luscious.
But I didn't know quite what to make of you guys. And I came to Toronto right at the same time, and then I met you at Smiley. And I didn't know right away. It was it took about 2 weeks to find out that you were part of this group. And it was interesting, and I didn't meet you till later, so I had no, but it was interesting to see how your personalities all occupy a very different piece of the same puzzle. This guy, to me, kind of grounded the two of you. Because even working with you for the last 5 years, you're very deliberate in the steps you take. You're very, the number of times we talked about, scalpel versus hatchet, those kinds of things in terms of and I need a you, and these guys need a you. And even though these guys were he's out talking, there's these public faces, but you, and then you later, that's true, but you come from this more, really this programming side, and it's you balance each other out really well.
Ben and Barn are, their energy is contagious, and they bring.
Is that all that's contagious about Barney?
Probably not, but they bring the energy, they bring the passion, they drive the believability of such a large thing, and it's actually hard to stand out in a room with two guys like that. But yeah, I mean, I think for my part, I'm usually the sobering voice that kind of like brings the party. And I'm not even going to say a realistic level because I'm not like, I'm often wrong. But yeah, I'm just like, they're going, holy shit, you know, okay, yes, let's do this. But, you know, here's my fear or my consideration, you know, for the table. And I think in some circumstances with the wrong people that could potentially hurt something. That could be big, but with these guys, you know, it's a nice balance.
Yeah, it always is a good checkpoint.
Yeah.
To say like, oh, we could do that, but that will be really, really bad. So then pulling back in and circling the wagons, or just like like reevaluating what we're doing and then being more realistic. Then that's the beauty of it, is because no one's really in charge. Then it's just like making a cartoon with a group. It's, you know, the best idea goes forward, and we just try to do the best job with anybody's idea, whether it's a screening, whether it's a speaker, whether it's whatever. It's just do the best job possible with what we have.
If I could speak to Mike's contribution, Mike's a quiet guy, but the strength of his conviction and vision was always like, no, you know, we're doing that. And it was always, I think the tone was always correct. Like once we saw the programming come into fruition, any doubts about like this particular thing being too dark or this particular thing being whatever, you know, the programming was a huge success and what we heard about most, I think, after that first year. And so, you know, that quiet confidence was a huge contribution on the programming side. An art director's like confidence.
Well, I just hate him because Captain Canuck didn't get in. You know, this is all actually just to lure him in here, so I can just club him over the head later on.
What year was that?
I don't know, like last year or whatever.
It was like last year, like January 13th.
I wasn't programming there.
You were programming? Oh, so then I don't have to kill you.
Free.
All right, you'll survive this encounter. Whew,
Yeah,
close one.
I don't think I've seen it.
All right, you can put the shovels away. What else we got to say?
About TAAFI?
Yeah.
How'd
Would you do it again?
We are.
If you were no, but
Currently.
if you know, like going with what you know now.
Yeah.
Back in those early days.
I wouldn't do it now because I know what the foundation of, you know, putting up a website, putting up the branding, getting the message out before you even had anything to build confidence upon. I have 3 kids now, so you know the levels. I need work, and the work has to be gratifying. But then there's something else that I know that I need, which is also like I have some more fuller creative input into. But it's got to be something smaller and more contained. And if it's TAAFI, then luckily there are these volunteers and these contributors that have come forward now, because there's something to
right. The reality
jump
of it
off
has grown to match what you can now commit to it.
And to do the people who are involved can do it better than I can now. So I can be involved in that in a realistic sense, having other things to juggle. Starting up something from the ground up, I'm far away from that right now. Just enjoying life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no regrets.
Not for me.
No, I think we had the great team to put it together, and everybody brought something else specific. Don't let it fall down.
Sorry.
So it's lovely. I think like if only, you know, I had more time to dedicate to it, to continue to build it into something more. I feel like everything, even Startoons, takes me away from doing these things or making other cartoons or teaching or animating on terrible shows.
Well, there are only so many hours in the day.
Yeah. So or home renovations. That's why I'm dressed. There's only so much time, and I have no regrets about starting this because I think it's a lovely thing. I think included so many people. I think it brought the community together in a way that it hadn't been before. Not only just us people that like watching cartoons, but industry people, industry organizations, industry leaders, thought people. So I think that TAAFI's going to do some great things in a few years. I think it's still pretty grassrootsy at this point, but it seems like it's gaining momentum, being a recognized organization. And I think within the next couple of years, then it's going to take a few big steps and then not be on par with TIFF, because TIFF is a rotten beast, but it'll be its own entity. It's not because of the people, but it's because of the bureaucracy. Fine, edit it all out. But the main thing is
No, it's not
TAAFI.
that you hang yourself
You signed a
publicly.
form.
I don't care. What is TIFF going to do to me? Nothing. They're not going to do anything because we're not going to hold our festival there because they're button Raj. They bumped us so many times, and they're edit that out.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm just not gonna say it.
I know, but it's like, what do we have to lose at this point? 'Cause no one's gonna watch this and be like, oh, TAAFI. But anyway, TAAFI's gonna do some good things, and it's bringing people together, and that's what's gonna happen over the next little while. And I think all the other things that are happening right now too are all great for Toronto.
Do you think there's still that momentum? We're talking. We were talking a minute ago about that energy, like 5 years ago when
When we started,
you started.
there's a lot more happening on the animation landscape than there was back then. Back then there was the animation industry party, and then we did our thing and it was huge. And we did another party and it wasn't as huge. And we did another party and it wasn't as huge. So that first party I think was our biggest one, and then our festival has been really big since then as well. But it's being smart about it now, and deliberate in what we do to serve either the community or whatever we're trying to promote or partner with at that point. So it's being relevant and being viable and being supportive of whatever we're doing.
How do you handle the responsibility of being the keepers of something that other people feel belongs to them?
Well, it's working with other people and understanding the boundaries and understanding the partnerships and the benefits of what's happening. And I think that's what Ben does a really good job of, is working with these other organizations. Rich does with partnering with more grassroots organizations. I do with just basically bringing in speakers, or Mike with bringing in cartoons, is just building that network of people that are like-minded.
But those individuals to whom TAAFI is now something that they feel ownership over, because it's the thing they go to every year, and it's where their community comes, and it's their time to connect, and it's their time that's a heady responsibility. You guys have made something that you made with a lot of help, a lot of people, but it was your vision that brought it to be. But you're creating something that belongs to other people. Other people identify that way. It's the thing they go to, and it's. Do you feel that responsibility?
I don't think like heavily. I think like anything good, you're just trying to put on something that you would want to go see. So
Is it that simple for
that's
you?
as simple as it is, really. It's not like, what are we trying to do? Oh, we better make TAAFI so good. It's like, let's put on, we have like 1,200 submissions for the festival in the last time. It's just like, let's pick 60 that are good and put them in a showcase.
Yeah, and you learn to trust your instincts.
Mhm.
Like Barney said, if it's something you would be interested in, odds are that's going to be what other people are going to want to see too. And when you have high enough standards, like personal standards,
Yeah.
then other people are happy to kind of say like, yeah, we'll go to something you guys are going to put on. I think.
And when we're pitching things too, it's like, not even with speakers, but like marketing too. At one point we tried bus ads or train, like TTC ads and that kind of thing. So it's trying out different places, and everybody is supportive of what we're trying at that point too. So it's a very much two-way street on everything that we do. If there's no dictatorship, it's like, let's just put on a show in the old barn and everybody's trying to lend a hand.
Put on a show in the old barn, is that what we're calling it?
Well, metaphorical barn. Toronto is the barn.
Every year, for me, on the marketing side, it just became a challenge of getting the numbers up.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever happened after that, that was up to the programming team and the whole team to make a cool event where these things happen and people enjoy themselves. But I was just like, just stressing about how do we get new people coming, and it became a bit of just like a game challenge, stressful one.
Yeah.
But that was my main concern is community. I'm glad that there's a contribution there, but I was just like, I just want more people to come.
Yeah.
And do you lose sight of why you're doing it?
No, I think it keeps me more focused.
Yeah.
And just like, this is my responsibility, not alone. I'm just saying like, it definitely helped to not think about everything else.
Yeah.
And just make that the main
Okay.
concern. And it's a bit clinical, but it's like,
But wasn't it funny, like the first couple of years when we were like, yeah, let's try Subway. Like we had no idea. Like we had all these stats of how many people are going to see it, how many impressions. But it's like, you don't know how that's going to work
it's
as
like,
far
what's
as
the
people.
budget? I don't know. I'm not a marketer.
Yeah. And we get posters, and I would just get friends, and we would just like poster Bloor Street, and, like put it in every chicken restaurant, and like try to get people out. And it's like, that's not our audience. Like, why are you even
All these
wasting your
people
time?
chomping on bones coming to the front door.
Oh,
Like,
it
it
worked.
worked.
Where's the cartoons?
Covered in barbecue sauce. Just touching stuff with their barbecue hands.
Oh no, it's
Tiff's gonna kill us.
Yeah, that's why we're asked not to come back. Any chicken stains.
All these chicken eaters. These low-class chicken eaters coming into our theaters.
High class.
It's good chicken.
Yeah.
You only went to the high-class chicken joints.
No bones.
Popeyes.
Right. Okay. Who's the last person you remember like really pissing off with this? Because you got complainers. You got to have complainers. You don't tell me any names, but like, come on, you got to be pissing some people off along the way.
So the first year, we used MailChimp
Oh fucking hell.
for just newsletter stuff.
Yep.
But I'm like, hey, there's this automation function, and Mike, I think I can help you with notifications for winners and
Yeah,
or
people who
declines
were
and
accepted and
accepted
people
who
or
were Okay,
declined. We can automate it, and so I set it all up. This is like the second time I'm using MailChimp. I set it all up, loaded in the names, and then schedule it to send in the morning. Because I read somewhere like schedule it for
8
9
a.m.
a.m. or
Yeah.
whatever. So then I woke up, I got ready for the day, and I had this sinking feeling inside of me. And I'm like, let me just go check these things. And I realized that I had sent acceptance letters to the declined films and an acceptance and a decline letter. So it was this like, holy fuck. That was the first moment where I'm like, okay, these are the kind of things that can go wrong. And so we had meetings about this, and it was very serious for having submitted films. I know how serious it is, and I think there was threat of a lawsuit, and this was something that Mike had to bear the brunt of the pain of.
The thing is, both letters had my signature on the bottom.
Right.
So people are writing, you fucking like to me, like you were such a piece of, and I was just like, the funniest thing, I still remember this, because at the time I was in between, I had a boarding gig and it finished and I was starting another one. So I had nothing to do. Like I was doing festival,
Yeah.
but I had time off. And I just remember waking up, logging into my email, and the thing I saw at the top was Rich saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I was like, huh? And I just looked at his thing and I was like, what does that mean? That's kind of cryptic. And then I look in my inbox and there's just like dozens of things. So I just picked up my laptop, went to the cafe around the corner, and I just wrote apology letters to everybody for an entire day. And then the greatest thing, though, the thing I loved about it, though, because people were really, really mad, obviously, but different people had different reactions. So some people were just kind of like, that sucks, I remember an Australian filmmaker saying, I just told my mom. And I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And I would engage them and write them back.
You have to make it personal at that point.
I remember there was this one woman from Spain. She wrote to me and she was just telling me how awful I was and how I didn't have a heart and all this. And then I wrote back to her. I was like, I remember you submitting late and I put your film in because I saw it as you're a person and I'm a person, so I was like, in this situation, can you not see how that applies in reverse? And I apologized, and then she came back. She was like, I'm sorry, I was just angry when I read that. And it meant the world to actually reach people who were, when you're on the internet and you're just writing an angry missive to somebody, you don't think about when it lands and what the effect it's going to have. But it was a personal growth for sure. Like
I'm glad I could give that gift to you.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's like, when that soldier is picking his arm up off the beach at the end of the intro to Saving Private Ryan. That was, I got to go through something equivalent to that.
That was your soldier's dismembered arm moment?
Yeah, it really was.
I think that was our first policy meeting where we're like, how did this happen? How do we prevent it? Let's create, we need bylaws or something. Yeah.
Rich's pictures up on the wall. He's not allowed to touch a computer again.
I like to do that at every workplace. Create an event.
Not allowed in the
infrastructure
bathroom.
change.
Keep them away from the kitchen.
Yeah.
What about you? Who'd you piss off last?
Well, I remember before our first event, because we were going to have Clive Smith talk as like our special guest or whatever. So then I think in marketing as well, then we said something like Clive Smith is like co-presenting this TAAFI party for this new festival at Vogue Supper Club. But somehow it like got promoted through marketing again, however that comes out. And it was more like he was putting this thing on. And so at the time I was in a tree deer hunting. So it was like the first day of deer season. So I'm sitting in a tree with a gun, and then like my cell phone rings and it's Clive Smith, and he's like, Bonnie, what the fuck are you doing with it? I'm putting this on it, it's not my face on it, and he just like goes off of me, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, like this is just part of marketing, it's not you putting it on, you're a special guest, and we talked to him about it as well. And then he was like, okay, no problem, and he was like fine with it. But like it's when you put those words into the world through Facebook and email and everything, it's we have a term that is termed after an email to Mike called like all caps or friendly caps, because I think I was asking Mike to do something, but I wrote like in all caps, and then Mike came back at me, and email and the internet is like a harsh thing that people read and they get it in there, and like unless you get people on the phone or sit them down in a cafe, sometimes you can't convey these things properly.
Yeah, sometimes a conversation is actually the best way to... Communication is so many times the problem. Tone, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, digital communication.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing I've learned through trying to market an event purely digitally, you're yelling into the wind at times, and you also don't know who's listening. So, in this case, there may be no likes on something, but a lot of people are seeing it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's almost like just amongst the noise. So it's not as effective as a handshake and the things that Ben does and the things that Barney's ambassador coordinator Karen do. It's a face-to-face thing, and that's always more powerful, more grassroots, more effective than the digital stuff. But yeah, the digital stuff can go wrong really quick from either just the wrong word, interpreted tone, or tone deafness of the sender.
And you have no way of knowing what state the person receiving it's in.
Yeah.
It's half that.
Yeah.
But again, that is so much of like, I find people are so willing to communicate, just their first demon thoughts they have. Yeah. At anybody, and then
stop
when you
and
see
wait
them in
and then
person,
send.
Yeah, that's completely
that
different
lesson is
story.
lost on so much now.
Yeah.
Ben, who's the last person you pissed off? Someone make him say Mike.
I pissed off Mike. I pissed off Mike by not being here. I don't know. We probably pissed off some people over job fair, one way or another.
But is it so? Are there ever any like you just can't please everybody kind of?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean.
No matter how much you try and you give your time as a volunteer,
someone ranting at
try
you
to put this on, and somebody's like,
it's not that often though.
No.
People are pretty cool, for the most part. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, and that's same thing. People are mostly cool and supportive, and then you get some people that are, rotten little people that grew up with too much money in their pocket, and then they're like, "Why didn't you do a better job?" And it's like, we killed ourselves to do that.
Yeah. Or why are you gouging? Why is the price so high? It's not for profit.
Yeah.
And we definitely want as many people as can come, but it also has to live beyond the event. So
Yeah.
Can I tell a funny story about? I don't know if I should
No.
tell this.
No.
but- Okay. Darn, it was
That's
really
the
good.
last thing I need is a funny story.
So there's this one incident where, because I was doing like all the communicating back and forth with filmmakers, that kind of thing, where one guy actually accidentally sent me this email that he was supposed to send to his producer, but he CC'd me on it. So I get this email, it's an apology, he's like, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Oh, what?" So then I read the other email he sent, which was the forward, and it was basically him saying that, "Oh, we're not classy, this film festival is blah, blah,
Festival?
blah." Yeah.
Oh.
But he wasn't being nasty, but it wasn't kind, you know what I mean? So I wrote back to him. I had to respond to so many emails. I was like, I'm gonna fuck with this guy. So I wrote back to him and I was like, well, I don't see how you writing, something like this about our festival isn't slanderous, and I'm just going to forward it to our legal department and all. And meanwhile, I'm sitting on my laptop, in my
What legal
underwear,
department?
So then I didn't.
Ben.
Yeah, I didn't torture him. I let it sit for a couple. And he wrote back. He's like, "I'm so sorry," but then I was just kind of like, "I'm just messing with you." And then we ended up making friends after that. And I did write him. I said, "I remember your film distinctly. It didn't get in for these reasons." I was like, "I thought it was excellent, but we only have so much time."
Yeah.
And he was so cool. He was like, and then we ended up exchanging shirts. He had a studio in London.
Okay.
He sent me a T-shirt, and I sent him a TAAFI shirt,
Nice.
and it was great.
Nice.
I was
Okay.
like, the best way to kind of get the aggression out and also make friends with somebody.
Yeah, sometimes a little passive aggression is not
Yeah.
the worst thing in the world. Okay, so let's wrap this up with, if we had to break this down, I know this is going to be very challenging, but we're going to try to keep this simple and keep it fairly short. If you were giving someone advice who wanted to start a festival, wherever they are in the world, whatever, because it seems to
Is
be,
it to Ann Denman?
no, it's not Dan. She has plenty of her own experience.
Good luck in Okanagan, and
But okay, but like look around. Like when I went down to Trinidad and Tobago years ago to a festival there, they're trying to build their industry. So you've got a college, Toon Boom comes along, gives them a whole bunch of computers and software. They start a festival. It's all part of how you build an industry. These things all need to go hand in hand, and it is almost formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have this experience now under your belt. A good couple of years. You keep saying you've learned a lot of things. You're continuing to learn. If you had to break it down in any way for people who were setting out to do something like this, how would you do that?
Start manageable.
that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Number one.
Start small and strong. So you come out with a voice, or know what your voice is.
You're passing on the knowledge.
But I would have to say record everything you're doing. If you're starting from scratch and you don't have a pool you can draw from for an experience, then you're in a position where you're building something from scratch. Record your steps. Take the time to make a process, because eventually, if you want it to live, you're going to have to be able to bring somebody into that and quickly show them how to get up to speed.
So you're starting. Let's say you're starting a film. And well, let's not restrict it to animation. You're starting a film festival. So if you're starting a film festival, know what kind of film festival you're trying to start.
Yeah.
Whether it's a genre film festival or it's whatever it might be, have a pretty clear idea of what niche you're trying to fill, and be doing it for some reason that you're passionate about.
Yeah, like if it's about ghosts.
Yeah.
Excellent example. A ghosts film festival.
You're welcome.
Scary. So not a horror movie festival, a ghosts movie festival. There's a lot you could lead with some pretty strong films.
Yeah.
Casper,
Ghost,
he's
perhaps.
looking to do events.
Yeah.
I'm thinking just Ghost.
Yeah.
It's right there in the title.
Yeah. Demi Moore. Signing table.
The late great Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Oh, in ghost form.
Shit. Okay, now we're going somewhere else. Okay, let's go back. So,
Go could sponsor it.
so identity, voice,
Yeah.
first point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and to build on that point, the first year is always the roughest because you're trying to drive the car while you're building the car. And then, as Rich said, if you just make notes of what happens when, when it comes time to loop around, you have all that experience under your belt and you just build upon it and build upon it. Whereas the first year, you're just kind of, doing it all at once.
Right.
So
So voice, start manageable.
Mm-hmm.
So more like maybe what you were doing,
yeah.
small theater down
One
the street.
event at a time
Yeah.
rather than a whole series of
While
events
you
at a
build
weekend.
identity.
Yeah.
Is this what you would do differently?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we did it incorrectly. There's many ways you can do it,
No, because it worked.
but because it was a burnout at the end. It's much better to arrive at the end. You're burnt out, but you're not crashing. You're able to move forward and do it again on a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
To pass on a lesson I learned from Scrooge McDuck, work smart, not hard. That was on an episode of DuckTales.
Yeah.
As far as marketing something like this, what are there go-tos?
They're the obvious ones. There are paid options, and then there's the free options. Social media is where we started. And before Facebook changed over to paid advertising, like just the year before we went, just in time for us to finish the first year, we had this freedom to hit everybody cheaply or freely. That was a good option. Now you can pay for ads, and I don't know what impressions give you. Like, it's very hard to tell.
That's what that desk over there is for.
Yeah.
That's
So-
somebody who does that here.
So we've since engaged a company who knows more about that
yeah.
for the festival. But I've learned that nothing is better than the face-to-face, being able to put a postcard in somebody's hand, being able to present to a room, students, which Barn and Karen do really well. Any chance you get to relate in person this thing happening, because there were so many times where we would finish a festival and people in the industry who were working side by side with somebody who attended the festival said, "Oh, that happened," and it blew my mind every time.
Yeah.
But it's because of dependence on, or a reliance or a trust in the digital medium being reaching everybody in some way. It's not easy to get the word out, but word of mouth has been our most powerful and affordable option. So anytime if you have something you're selling, be passionate about it, be honestly passionate about it, and relate that to people, which I'm not good at. I'm glad I have other people on the team who are really great at that. That's the most powerful tool that marketing, word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have students coming each year. They're getting older. They had a good experience. They're moving on in the industry, and they're coming back. Students are really, valuable to us, and we're grateful to the students who do come.
Yeah.
And hope that they have a great time.
Well, you start with them because
Yeah.
they don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
Like that's their in. It's their way into this whole thing, and once they're in, they stay.
Yeah.
Is the sort of stunt casting, the guests, that kind of thing, is that how crucial to that growth, or even that first time out? And how do you, let's say if you are first time out, how do you get those first couple of big name guests?
Well, it's through all your connections, your friends of friends. So I think we rely on that, both friends for running it. I think in starting a festival, what I would say is get together people that you want to see every week or all the time, and all these people, that was an excuse to, the whole thing was just an excuse to hang out with them once a week, basically. So that's number one, is get people that you like to hang out with, and number two is get something that are common interests. So it's like a book club, but instead of reading a book together, then you're planning these elaborate things. You're saying, what if we could get this? So it was John Kay was our first guest, and I got him through a friend Mike Kerr, who's basically saying like, can you hook us up with John Kay? And he's like, yeah. And then then once you lock that in, then you're legit, and then everything kind of builds around that. So I think each year is landing that one keynote speaker, that one big speaker.
In a very nuts and bolts way, how do you entice those guests when they've got to come in from LA or something like that? How do you get them here?
Sometimes you pay them, sometimes you trick them, sometimes you give them cookies.
Yeah, I am actually surprised that, if it's an opportune moment and they have something to promote, then it's like Don Hertzfeld. I think he just, these people who sometimes seem larger than life have their email openly placed on their website, or somebody knows them, so there's an easy avenue. Or in the case of Josh Cooley, you just try j.cooley@Pixar and you get through.
You just gave his email.
Yeah, I believe that.
I think it is actually through a connection.
J hyphen.
Yeah, maybe cut that out. But yeah, initially the introduction to Josh was through a classmate.
Yeah.
So, and then when you needed a little extra nudge, you try some things and get through another way.
A little bit of Cowboys, not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, but Brenda Chapman, I got to talk to her at one of Bobby Chu's events. You should talk to Bobby Chu as well on the podcast. And she said, "Yeah, my email's right on my website, so anytime, I'd love to talk."
So basically, just don't hesitate to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, reach out, beg, borrow, and steal, and get in contact with these people. And sometimes they're more than willing just to come out and share, because a lot of them have been through the grinder that we all have, and now they're at a certain point and they're like, they love just giving back. So a lot of people, it's just like you fly them in and they're happy to talk.
So if you can afford a flight and a hotel, then chances are you can probably get someone to show up.
Yeah. More, that's the day, as long as you're not costing them money.
Yeah. Any other pearls to those out there who might be looking to do something like this? Any warnings?
Animation
no one wants to hear this.
Film,
but
it can be film, it can be anything.
I've fallen in love with Excel, with Google Docs and all the Google products. And if you have a team, like if you want to do something like this after hours, like everybody knows Google Docs, but it's more powerful than you actually think. So I've taken that. My big takeaway, my practical takeaway from TAAFI is those skills, which I brought into my job.
Yeah.
And I never knew what the value of all of this would be. It was just started as a passion thing, but something will come out of it if you just have an impulse, that there's something good over here. Jump in, try it out, and something will come of it eventually.
Yeah, and don't ever do it because you want it to be profitable. Do it because you like it.
Yeah.
Because if you tried doing something like this because you wanted to make money on it, you're an idiot.
Case in point, Ben one time was like, I want to be the director of the festival. So then he stepped off the board so he could be the director, but we didn't have any money to pay him. So then it was just like this sad, lonely place where he didn't have a vote. It was like in Beetlejuice where he goes into the sand land with all the snakes. So Ben was stuck with the snakes for like a year until he was like, that was a mistake, let's go back on the board. So now he's back on the board.
So I think a little recap then is be organized, be passionate, have a vision, start manageable, and a little bit of cowboy, beg, borrow, steal, and don't hesitate to ask.
Get a good group of friends.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main
Don't do
ones.
it alone.
I think
Don't
also
do it alone. You get other people that like doing stuff together, I think is, because I can do stuff by myself, but until I found these guys, I couldn't have done this alone. And so it's this group of like-minded, smart, talented people that have a little bit of spare time.
Gotcha. Oh, look, you reached out.
Look how big his hands are.
You reached out.
Genetically modified superhuman. It's like that super pig on Netflix.
How do you pronounce that? Okia?
Okia.
I haven't seen it yet.
I've heard like 10 Okia jokes this week,
Have you?
and I haven't seen the movie.
It's not for kids.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing, which is that
That you'd be delicious if I fried you?
no, not enough meat.
Next time I am not buying beer.
I'm bringing this up again, but I felt like we were stepping on each other's toes a lot at the beginning because we all had visions that we wanted to, and I've learned that is totally normal and totally something that you just, as you slot into place, and become that fine-oiled machine, it's not a disaster.
Yeah.
Just absorb that stuff, roll with it,
Whether
get
it-
upset, but know that that's pretty normal.
And
process.
trust other people to do their jobs too. Because I remember Mike at one point did selections with his team of the best films, and I was questioning that, and I was like, I watched one of the screenings, and I was like, is that really the best film? And I called him up, and he was like, yeah, it was the best film, and he explained why, and I was like, yeah, you're right. And so it was like, I don't even know why I was questioning him at that point. I should have just let him do his job.
But when you're all starting out and you're not really confident enough, everyone questions their own, like it's the mistakes an insecure person makes. Everybody makes them on the board or when you're starting something, and it's like you get to know, oh yeah, what we're doing is
But have a little faith in your instincts and in
exactly.
the instincts
and
of your
everyone
friends.
else,
Well, because it's bigger than yourself, right? You're doing this big thing. So it's like every email that you send or every person that you talk to, you're representing the festival itself. Every bad interview that you give, you're representing the festival itself. So if you say the wrong thing, you might, anger people or whatever. But it's
Or
just
if you say many of the wrong things.
or you slur too much. End of thought.
Okay, so let's call that. So I'm going to do a quick throw. We're going to wrap it up. I've had enough of Barney. And this guy, we just can't shut Ben up tonight. So I want to thank...
Take that, you late bastard!
I'm sorry. Sponsor TAAFI. I want to thank these guys for coming out, sharing a little bit of their experience, starting what has become the
Institution.
the backdrop of our community here in Toronto.
The umbrella.
The umbrella of our community here in Toronto. Thank you guys for coming out and putting some time in. I know it's got a little chilly with our new AC.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. No, this is a lot of fun. And TAAFI can be found where online?
TAAFI.com.
Or .ca, it all goes there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else we should be poking and promoting personally?
Oh, I mean, Todd and the Book of Pure Evil.
Why not?
It's
Why
probably
not?
going to premiere during Fan Expo. I hope many people can see the TV show, which I've become a fan of since working on the project. But that's something I'm really excited about. It's the first feature film out of Smiley Guy Studios.
Nice.
Watch the latest crew of Startoon cartoons. They're a good batch. You better be voting and clicking because God knows there's no people with auto clickers out there.
We're doing a lot better with the bots this
Sure
year.
you are.
Our numbers are way down. We know it's working because we don't have nearly as many votes.
That's fair.
Speaking of bots, check out the Cybertronic Spree.
Woo!
They're a great band of Transformers, and they're friends of mine.
All right. Okay. Thank you guys. That's awesome. And we'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much.